Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. So this is, as you can tell by the title, a coding tutorial. So basically what it's going to be about is a task management system that I coded up on a React application. So I just want to start with that I'm not a master coder at all. And instead I wanted to use my summer to start learning to program. And I honestly thought that I would take it the next step by putting what I coded out there and teaching others how I did it. So the way I coded it was definitely a combination of a lot of things. There was lots of tutorials, things like Codecademy, Free Code Camp, and let's be honest, when I did run it into super complicated things and bugs, I looked at Stack Overflow or even GPT. I wanted to start with that because, again, I'm still learning to code as well, but I really, really hope this tutorial makes a lot of sense because I wanted it to be as easy to understand as possible. So, again, for context, this project is a task management system that was originally for astronauts to manage their tasks and optimize their schedule. It's kind of random, but I really wanted to get into space tech and started creating this web app. So, this kind of main web app called Astro, which has a bunch of different features like Astro Health for health management, Astro Companion for companionship, and just other features. I wanted to do a tutorial on Astro-Tasks specifically because I think it's the best way and easiest way to get into React applications and Java. So, yeah, let's just get into it. You can always contact me or even comment if you have any questions, but let's just get started. Okay, so I hope the quality isn't horrible on this. I'm not using Loom like I usually do because they don't have like the premium, I don't have the premium plan. So we're just gonna do this. But I also want to start with I'm actually on a Mac, so I'm not sure how the different like commands and terminal would work if you're on like Windows or any other software. But yeah, I am on Mac, so yeah, hopefully you are too. But first thing you're gonna do is you're going to go to your terminal. So what we want to do, oh, looks like we need to do a new terminal. Um, okay, so what we're gonna do is we want to make the folder that our React application is gonna be in, essentially. So what I actually want to do is, and you can put this anywhere, it can be in your downloads, desktop, whatever, but I want to make my folder in my desktop. So I'm going to change the directory in terminal to desktop. The reason I'm doing this is because the next step, so what I'm doing right now, is I'm making a directory or making a file, and I'm going to name it Astro-Tasks 1. That's going to go on my desktop as it just did right there. And again, the reason is because I just think it's really easy to navigate on desktop, especially on Mac. It's honestly your choice, but this is just kind of how I want to do it. And now we're going to change our directory to be in this folder. So right now in terminal, I'm just telling terminal that I want to be in this folder because I want to set some things up. All right, so now that we're in the folder, I want to create the backend. So in a React application, you'll usually have a backend and a front end. We're just gonna worry about the backend right now. I started with the backend. I'm pretty sure that's how it's normally done. I just found it easier. But what we're gonna do, so within this folder, we want to create a backend folder and a front end folder. So I'm gonna create with the same command, we're gonna make a directory for the Astro-Tasks backend folder. And notice how we're still in this like main folder. So I'm basically like creating a folder within a folder. So I'm just gonna call it Astro-Tasks backend, and I'm just gonna do one because it's easier. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to change my directory again to be in that folder. And if you open it up, you can see that now there's a folder. Nothing's in it, but I created the folder within this one, and now it's gonna be there. All right, so what we did, again, just to recap, is we made the folder in our desktop and then made a backend folder within it. Now, again, in the terminal, make sure you are in the backend still. What I want to do is create the virtual environment. So what that is I'm going to basically say that it's like a coding application. I'm telling the terminal that, and I want Python within it. And honestly, I know that virtual environments are just easier, especially when you're working on coding projects. So I'm just gonna kind of make a virtual environment, and you can already see it right here, and it kind of like has a bunch of dependencies that I don't already have to like just install. Like you can see Python, right? So that's why that's really important in the back end. And then also what I want to do is I want to activate it. So I'm going to activate the virtual environment, and now you can see right here that it was activated. So we're still in the back end. You can see that there's a virtual environment. What I want to do is install a bunch of dependencies. So basically like the prerequisites for our application. So I'm literally just going to make requirements. Is that how you spell requirements? Yeah. What I'm doing is I'm making a kind of like a text file within the back end, because you'll see what I'm going to do next, but that's basically what that command is. Now I'm going to make, oh, okay, wait, give me a second. All right, for now, let me just figure that part out. But right now, we made our virtual environment, and I made a requirement text file. Okay, so basically what we're gonna look at now is if you go to that folder, you can see that I created a requirements text file. So I'm gonna open that up actually, and I'm going to, this is where I wanna put like the different requirements for the application. So there's gonna be something called Flask, and what we're doing here, so I'm gonna actually type that out in this file. What we're doing here is including dependencies in the file that I want in the backend. Okay, so, and then you can even just double check that it's saved. And now if I go back to my terminal, so I'm still in the backend, by the way, I'm going to pip install that requirement text. So everything that's basically on, I think it was requirements with an X, yeah, text. What we're doing is this is the command to install what I just said. So you can see it literally installed Flask right there. You can see. Okay, and it worked. Final thing we're gonna do, this is like honestly just setting everything up before we're even doing the coding aspect. You're gonna, hopefully you have VS Code, so Visual Studio Code. If you don't, you should definitely download that onto your Mac or your device. It's really simple. If you want, you can look at another tutorial, but yeah, make sure you download that, because what we're gonna do is we're going to drag and drop this folder onto the VS Code icon. Just let it open up. And good. See, it already worked. You can see we have a requirement text. And yeah, so now we're in the back end. So you can see that we're in the back end, and we're going to create a new folder within the back end. So I'm in the back end right now. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to press new folder. This folder is going to be called models. Okay. This is a new folder within the backend, and you can even, I think it should, yeah. So it comes up there as well. Go back to VS Code. Within the models folder, I'm gonna create a file called task. So new file, right click, new file, task.js. Be careful with the spelling, but this JS is for like a JavaScript. Like that's the language I'm using, and you're going to just press enter. So we're creating this folder because we simply want to organize our data so into like models, and the task.js file, it's basically defining the tasks in the task management application. I think you'll understand a little more as we go through it, but this is basically what we're going to work on first. Task.js is the first file we're going to start with. Hello, so I actually wrote all this code with an explanation, and I'm realizing that I cannot find the recording. And instead of like retyping all the code, I think I'm just gonna explain it. But trust me, I did like type it out and I was explaining it as I went through it. It was kind of slow, but I'm just gonna explain it. So over here, what I did was I imported Mongoose. So Mongoose just makes it easier to read and write our data in our application. So this constant variable here means that once the variable Mongoose is assigned to a value, it can't be reassigned to a different value. So the require function over here is used to import the Mongoose library into our code, and the string Mongoose is like the name of the module that we want to import. So yeah, Mongoose is pretty important for this kind of application, so that's why we are importing it. And then I just skipped a few lines here. So over here is where I think I wanted to talk about it. So this Boolean part right here just means that a task is either completed or not. So it's either true or it's either false. So that's what that's for. Actually, this part is, so when someone adds or creates a task, it's basically saying that it's created at the current time and date, or date and time. So created at the type, and then it's the date, the default date, which is going to be the date that's now. And then I actually did it so that there's a setting so that you get reminded about a task 1 hour or 60 minutes after you created the task. So over here, you can see the reminder time. It's the default date, and then it's going to be default 1 hour later. And I had so much fun explaining what this green stuff here is, but it's basically in Java, if I did double slash and I like write a message and I run the code, it won't be included in the code. So it's kind of like a fun, I liked it. It was fun. So I just added that the default is 1 hour later, closed everything up. Over here, which was also important, so line 16 is where I created the task model. So I'm creating a model called task, and Mongoose, which is the database, will collect is going to create a collection named tasks. So right there. And the last line is going to allow you to export this task model. So module.exports lets you export functions, objects, variables, other things from a module that can be used in other files. So now what we can do is we can import this task model that I made up here, the model function, into any other parts of our application, which is going to be really important because all of this is kind of just like I was structuring it and making the system. So now all we have to do is import this into other files, and yeah, and now we don't have to like type everything out again, if that makes sense. Hopefully this was okay. I had to like quickly just explain it. But yeah, let's just move on to the next file. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're in the back end right now, and we're going to create a file, so still within the back end, and it's going to be called routes. So I'm in the back end right now, and I'm creating a new folder called routes. And within this folder, we're going to create a file called tasks.js. So make sure that you can sometimes, and I had such a big issue with the S, is that this is task without an S, this is tasks plural with an S. So yeah, we're gonna create this JavaScript file right now. And for the first few lines, all I'm going to do is I'm going to import all the dependencies. So over here, I'm going to create all the dependencies. So I'm going to, first, I'm going to do kind of like the same thing that we did with the other file. All right. So what I just did there is Express is going to create the web server and handle any request. And what Express is, sorry, it's a really simple web application tool. So yeah, I just kind of imported that because that's like the first step. Now I'm gonna do, it's basically like the same like format in my opinion. I think that's why this is the easiest part when you're doing it. But yeah. Also, okay, so I don't want to I want to do one line at a time. So over here in the second line, what I did is that this router object is just for us to make the code easier to navigate through and separate certain routes from the main application, if that makes sense. And here, what I was going to do is import the tasks model from the models folder from before. And remember, we want this so that we can do the things like create or delete a task or have that reminder time or that like created app feature. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to ... So that means it's in the same directory. So the backend directory, and it's going to be in the models folder, and it's going to be in the task folder. And yeah, all I did there was I simply just imported all the dependencies for the tasks.js file. Okay, so now what we want to do is add like the functionality that's going to allow us to create a new task in the task management system. So I'm going to do that double slash just to specify that this is for creating a new task. So the first thing that I want to do is define a post route to be able to create the new task. So that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, so we're going to be using a post route, a post route to send data to the server because in essence, we want to create a new task. That's basically what we're doing. I always get so confused with the brackets. So I'm gonna, okay, I think that should be fine. Yeah, okay. So right now I'm creating a new kind of example. A new kind of example almost for the task model we created before. I'm hoping this part makes sense. Let me know if there's any like specific questions I can answer in the comments. But yeah, we're creating this almost new instance. This almost like new instance with data from the request body. So I think it'll make more sense when I just kind of type it out like this. Yeah, but I kind of suck at like since I am like learning as well, like coding and everything, I'm kind of sucky at the like brackets. Okay, and also, so this part, what I'm doing right now, you can see with the error, what I'm doing there is it's handling any errors that occur during like this entire process just to be safe, of course. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And if any error does occur, it's gonna return this 500, see this 500 status code and an error message. So I'm actually gonna write out the error message right now. So I'm gonna do like message. Yeah, I'm just gonna write the message. So I'll just do error, error creating task, and then close off the string. And then, yeah, so that's going to basically like be defined as the error. And then I think it should be close it off. And then, yeah, so basically this section here looks like there's some problems. I think, okay, yeah, I'll just fix this stuff super quickly. But basically what I was doing here is that this is going to allow us to, when you're creating a new task, it'll send it to the server. If that process fails, it'll send out like a 500 status like error code, and then also a message error creating task. So yeah. Okay, so now what I want to do is basically another section called get all the tasks. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so the first part is I'm going to do the same thing. So router.get, and then I think I'm just going to copy and paste this. Okay, what's the problem? Okay, so over here I'm defining a get, so you can see get route, which is basically getting the tasks and retrieving the data from the server. So it's literally gonna be basically this whole thing again. Actually, I think I'm gonna copy and paste this. I think it might just be easier, and I'm gonna edit it as we go. So let's see. So this is fine. Okay. Yeah, so this part is obviously going to be different. So yeah, basically, for the rest here, we're retrieving, so here we're retrieving all the tasks, sending these tasks back to the client as a list, and handling any errors that occur during the task retrieval process. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna, since I already edited that part, but same thing here. This is going to be the error, like kind of like a troubleshooting, I guess you can think of it. But this time I don't want to do error creating, I want to do error fetching task. And it's gonna be same thing, the 500 JSON like status code error. And yeah, this is literally what we're gonna do for the getting all the tasks. For the next section, it's going to be updating a task. I'm just gonna like skip a bunch of lines. So I'm gonna do update a task. And again, I feel like it might just be easier if I just copy it and then I'll edit it, because I think you can kind of tell that at this point it's very, very similar for each feature or each like functionality piece of the task management system, whether it's like creating the task or getting the task. You'll see there's just different requests that we have to put in. So like this is get, this is post, this is update. So this is going to be put. Yeah, put. Okay. And I think for updated task, there is going to be a little more code, but yeah, let's just see what we're working with. So, okay, so we're defining the route and we want to be able to find the task by its ID. That's why if you were kind of confused, that's why I put it there. So we want to be able to find the task by its ID. Okay, yeah. So this I'm gonna also change is gonna be find by ID, since I edited like this part over here. Gotta edit this part as well. And then request the ID. So we're gonna be able to find the task by its ID and then check if the task exists. And if it doesn't exist, so what I'm gonna actually do here instead is check if the task exists, just like this. And then if the task doesn't exist, it's gonna return another error code. So this time I'm gonna do 404.json, and then same thing, we gotta do a message. So I'll do task not found because it's about can the server find the task or not. Task not found. Yeah, okay. I think this is looking good so far. Okay, so if you remember, I think we ended off around here. So basically I was saying to the server is find the task by its ID. So we want to find it by its ID. And if the task does not exist, it's going to return this message. So this task not found message. And then over here, this is going to update the completed status of a task, and it lets someone see if their task is complete or incomplete, and it'll save it over here. It'll save the updated task to the database and handle any of the errors during that entire task updating process. So that's what I did there. So you can see there's 2 error codes because there's kind of like 2 different like parts to this one, as opposed to here there's kind of 1. So yeah, I hope that part makes sense. We're gonna move on. Yeah, we're gonna move on, I think. Okay, so now I want to have the ability to delete a task in our application. So we're going to be deleting a task. So I think, okay, my spelling kind of sucks. Here. Yeah, it's so much easier when you can just copy and paste it. Okay, so this is defining a delete route to delete a task. That's literally all it is there. And then I think I'm just gonna, yeah, this part should all be the same, I believe. Okay, so it's going to find and delete a task. Oh, okay, so find by ID and delete. So it's going to find the task by the ID and it's going to delete it. And then the part in the bracket is what contains the ID, or is what contains the task ID from the URL. This checks if the task exists, as we know. And if it doesn't, it'll return this 404 code. And I'm going to do, yeah, it's going to be the task not found, because this part is the same here, is just being able to find the task. Now we got to do like the actual delete part. So it'll be very similar. It's a very similar format. That's why I didn't find this part too hard. But yeah. Okay, so where did we leave off? I think it was right here I left off at. So actually here, I'm going to put a message instead. So I want a message for, oh, did I do? Message task deleted. So this is, the end part is kind of like if everything on the top was successful, this will be successful as well. So it's sending a confirmation message that the task was successfully deleted. That's what it is. And then this is the handling any errors if that process is not being able to delete the task, or if it just like doesn't work. But I'm gonna do error deleting the task. Error deleting. Yeah, that's it. That's all we're gonna do for deleting the task. And I think we're almost done for this part, to be honest. I'm gonna skip yeah, I'm gonna do it like there. Now I want a, oh my god, I cannot spell update completed status of a task. Okay. Yeah, hopefully the format makes sense though. So with all of these, you can see that there's some sort of like request. So it's a post one. Over here, it's a get request, put, delete, whatever it is. You're gonna kind of start with that portion, and you basically want to tell the server like whatever it is. So here it's gonna be deleting. You have to first find the task by its ID and delete it. But in order to do that, you need to check if it exists. And if this process doesn't work, it's going to send out an error, like status almost. Yeah, I hope that part is making sense so far, because the last part is going to be the completed status of a task. Okay, so since this was the exact same process as the other ones, I just quickly typed it out and then I wanted to just explain it. So over here we're using, so again, this is the update the completed status of a task. Over here we're using a router.patch for a patch request to update the completed status of a task. So that's why it's complete right there. Then it'll find by ID and update. It's going to be the completed status. Okay. And then it'll find and update that task. That's kind of where you see this here. This line sees if it exists, and if it doesn't, it will return the error status code, task not found, as we did. So basically very, very similar to all of these other ones. Over here, the end is a little different. So it's going to send the updated task back to the user. So it's going to send it back to the user and then just handle any errors during that entire process. That was it. Last thing is we're going to delete. Okay. So what I'm going to type out right now, okay. So this exports the router object so it can be used in other parts of our application. So if you're still confused, just think of it like this router is going to allow us to import. So this part right here is going to allow us to import and use all of the routes that we just created in the other pieces of code. So remember, the post route we did to create a new task. The get is retrieving the tasks. The put is updating a task or a specific task by its ID. The delete request is deleting a task or a specific task by its ID. And then the patch right here, the patch request right there updates the completed status of a specific task by its ID. So that's what we're doing here. So all of those, it's going to be here so that we can import it to other files. That's literally what it is. I think it'll make more sense as we're finishing up the back end, because we are pretty much almost done. I mean, we did kind of get through 2 files already. Back end, I would say, is much easier than the front end. But yeah, that's all we're going to focus on right now for the tasks.js file. Okay. So this is our backend setup currently. What we're going to do now is you're going to go to the backend, so we're already in it, and we're going to create a file called server.js. It's really important. You might have heard of it, but you're just going to right click, new file, server.js. So it's just going to be its own file in the backend. So this is really important. This is the entry point of our React application. So it's going to set up the Express server and define all of those routes from before, all of those routes for the operations for the tasks. So yeah, this is a really important file, a part of the backend server. And yeah, that's what we're going to work on next. Okay, so the first lines are going to be importing the dependencies for server.js. So kind of like the prerequisites for this file. So the first one we're going to do is import the Express library. So I'm just going to, hopefully you remember this from the other files as well, but I'm importing the Express library. We need Express for the web server and to handle all the requests. So like deleting the a task or making it complete or adding a task. So that's why we need that one. Now I'm going to be importing the cores middleware. So cores, we need cores because it allows the server to accept requests from different servers. So for example, when we want our front end to be in communication with our back end. So this is also important. The last one, so it's just going to be 3 for now, is the same thing. So the Mongoose library. And yeah, we're importing the Mongoose library. Okay, now we got to initialize the Express application. So I'm going to initialize the application. And this first line is going to let us run the server. So this is like letting us run the server using Express. Remember, it's we need Express for the web server, so this is going to be running it. The second line that I'm writing out right now is going to be for which the server. Okay, so this is a port number. So the port number is for where the server is going to listen for the requests. So I chose port 5008 because it's available to me. But you can choose anything. Like I think it's like better if you usually start with like 5,000, but I actually can't because I have like an application running on this. This is taken. So I already know that pretty much like everything up until here is taken. So I was like, I'm just gonna go with 5008, but you can use anything. Like you can do const port, like this. You can do this, but I'm just doing that because I don't want it to be taken. Let's see if I actually, okay, yeah, so that's what that part is going to be. Remember, this is server.js, so it's everything to do with like the server and the React application and all that stuff. Okay. Now, what I'm doing here is letting the front end application, which we're then going to, so sorry, I was just like thinking about the best way to explain that part. And these brackets are so confusing to me. Yeah, so this is going to let the front end application, which we're going to work on later, it's going to make requests to the back end. So that's what this part is going to be right here. Because remember, we want the back end and the front end to be in communication, and we're just on the back end, right? So we got to make sure that's covered. Now we're going to connect. So this is actually going to be, I think it's going to be a little longer. So I'm going to do mongoose.connect because we're connecting to the MongoDB. So anytime you import something, you have to put in like a string. So this is going to be MongoDB. I'm going to explain that later, but just kind of look what I'm doing right now. So I'm putting the I'm putting the URL for the local host that's going to create a connection to the MongoDB database named tasks to the part where it says, okay, so let me actually just type it out and I'm going to come back and explain it because I want to make sure I got the URL right for my other application, and then I'll come back and explain everything. Okay, so again, I'm running on a local host, which is usually what you do when you're making your own applications. and I'm creating a connection to the MongoDB database named tasks right here. So the part where it says use new URL parser, that part is going to avoid the deprecation warnings and actually make sure that there's stable connection. Okay, now the next part is going to be defining the task model. So I think this stuff might be really familiar from the other files. And then, but yeah, so I'll explain this part as well. Basically, I'm making sure that the tasks have a kind of like a consistent structure. So with fields for a title, you can see right there, a completed status, and I gotta do Boolean because that's true or false. And then also a reminder time. So that's going to include the date. And then I'm just going to close that off. Close that off. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. It's like a consistent structure for the task model where there's fields for the title, completed status, and the reminder time. And then over here, I'm gonna just like skip a few lines. So now we have our constant, which is the task. The last line I'm doing is I'm creating, so I'm literally just creating a model named task. So you can see I just typed it out right now. It's going to be named task, and it'll now interact with the other tasks. So that's what I just did there. Hopefully that was pretty simple to follow. Semicolon, and yeah, hopefully that was pretty easy to follow. Now what we're going to do is skip a few lines again. I just like do it until I feel, but this is going to be the section for fetching the tasks. I love that word. I love that word so much. Fetch all tasks. So I'm gonna do this. But yeah, this is going to be for fetching all the tasks. So let's start. So I'm defining a get route. So you can see the get, hopefully those are becoming, like you can start identifying those routes now. And I feel like even this like part that I'm typing out right now, it's so familiar, and even I'm getting like really used to typing this all out. But yeah, I'm defining a get route. Okay, there. I'm defining a get route to fetch all the tasks, and I'm using the get to retrieve the data from the server. That's what I did there. This is retrieving, so this part right here is going to retrieve all the tasks from the task collection. That's what I'm going to do task.find. So it's going to retrieve it from the collection. Yeah, with an S. This line right here that I just did is going to send the retrieve tasks back to the client or the user, whatever, as a response, because I want to be able to display the tasks so that you can actually see a list, right? Like if you type out a task, you want to see the list. And then this next part, so the next few lines are literally just for handling any of the errors. So I'm going to do error fetching tasks. Yeah, that's going to be the error code. So this is going to be for handling any of the errors during this process, and it'll give a 500 status code and an error message to the user if it doesn't work. So I'm going to type out the message really quickly right now. So message. And then, okay, I think I finally got proper form. Okay. Okay, so now I want to do the functionality again for adding a new task, because over here we did fetching the task, so now I want to add a new task again. So it's like a very very similar format to what we're going to do, like kind of what we did here for what we're going to do here. Just deleted that. I'm going to copy and paste this. It's going to be different, obviously, but this first line I'm going to do is define a post route. So this time it's not get, because I just deleted it. It's post, and that will add a new task. So yeah, this part I think is all the same. Okay. So now you can see that it's very repetitive, I think, which is, yeah, so I'm going to add a new task. So yeah, it's very repetitive. That's why I don't think it should be too hard to follow along for now. So I'm gonna like quickly type this all out. I'll come back, and I think I'm gonna I think I'm just going to explain what I got to and how I did it, because it's honestly really repetitive, and I don't want the video to be longer than it needs to. So I'll be right back. Okay, so again, when we're adding the new task, I explained here how this was a post route, so it'll be able to add a new task. If you bring your attention here, so these are all the things when you're adding a task that I'm basically telling the code or the computer, these are the things that I want to take in consideration. So obviously there should be a title, there should be a completed section, and there should be a reminder time. So it's basically, I was like a little confused about this part, but I think I figured it out. It's basically 1 hour later. That's kind of what this part is here. And then over, where else did I want to look at? Okay, so here, this part right here is sending the created task back to the user with a 201 status code. And then all of this right here is handling any errors again. So if there's an error with handling the adding the task, that would be covered right here. Okay. We're gonna skip a few lines. And I'm going to create okay, so this is going to be the toggle task completion section. So I think I've explained this part a lot, but it might still be confusing if I didn't do a good job at explaining it. But basically, I want to create this part of the code so that you have the ability to check off the task rather than deleting it. So let's say that you're on the web app and there's an option to delete a task, but not everyone would want it just completely deleted. Maybe you want it like checked off. So I want to have an option where you press on the task, or like there's like a check off section, so like a line goes through it, so that you can still see, because some users, maybe they want to have, like, they want to see everything they got even though it's done, or some people just want to delete it. So that's kind of why I want to do that. So whenever I say like toggle task completion, it's basically me being like, it's like that check off feature. So that's what that is there. But I think we're just gonna start. So the beginning, as you can tell, is usually the same, I'm gonna say. Don't make me type it all out. Okay, it's fine. We'll just have to figure that out after. But so over here, I'm defining I'm gonna do that. I'm defining a put route, so you could see I'm defining it to toggle the completion status that I want. Now I'm going to do that. I think it should be, what did we just work on? I think find by ID. Okay, here. So I literally can just copy and paste this to the server.js file because I'm realizing that it's like pretty much the same, right? So I want to find the task by its ID, and this part right here, so this stuff in the bracket, it contains the task ID from the URL, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so this part is good, and then I think I'm forgetting. Okay, so remember, it has to be if the task exists, right? Completed. This part right here that I'm typing out is what it is it's flipping the value to completed. So when the server ends up finding the task, it's going to flip the value to completed, and then this next part is going to save the updated task to the database. So yeah, it's really repetitive. It's like very similar to what did I just do? Very similar to what we just did in the other file. But yeah, I just want to make sure that that's all clear. Now what I'm going to do is send the updated task back to the client, just like this, because the user should know, obviously, if the process was... Sorry, I hope I didn't get cut off, but what I wanted to say was that the user should know if that process was successful. So that's that part. Now what I want to do is add the section for deleting a task. Okay, deleting a task. So this is going to be very similar. It's just going to be the delete. I'm defining a delete route to this time delete a specific task by its ID. And what you can actually do is go back to this part, because this is pretty much like the bulk of the code for server.js. So here's my delete a task section. And I think I'm going to copy basically this part. There are some differences, but I'm going to go, yeah, with that part. And yeah, so this is finding a task and then deleting it. Remember, find by ID and delete. Okay. I think this should be good. And then, yeah, I'll type that part out. And then I'm going to also do this part. And then I'll do one more line. Okay, so what I just did, I don't want to like do a tutorial where it's like I type everything out and then like no explanation. Like, of course I'm gonna explain everything, but this is basically checking if the task exists, and if it doesn't exist, it'll send like a confirmation message, obviously, because I think that's something we were going through. So it's going to send a 404. 404. Yeah, it's going to send a 404 and then the JSON message, because I want the message to be for the task not found part. So remember, it's like super repetitive, but we're finding the task by the ID and then we're deleting it. But if that whole process of finding the task by its ID fails, it'll send a message called task not found. It shouldn't happen. It might, who knows, but it shouldn't. Okay, yeah, that part should be pretty, I think, okay. And then the last part is going to be for the deleting of the task. So I'm handling any errors during the deletion process now. So this is going to be error deleting task, because that could also be an issue. I think that's more likely to occur than it not being able to find the ID. But yeah, let's try this, and then it's going to send a 500 this time JSON, and then I'm going to do the message. Okay, I think my brackets are kind of wacky. Because this should, yeah, that should be closed off. And then I think I'm missing, close this one. Oh, and then I see this red one right here. Closed, done. All right, perfect. So finally, I figured it out. But it's so hard like on camera. But okay, so same thing. It's very, very similar. That's why I don't think I'm going really in depth with this process of writing the code, but we're finding the task ID, and then you're going to delete it. And if that like doesn't work, there's going to be like troubleshooting, so the task isn't found. And then this is for if you can't delete a task. And yeah. Okay, I hope I'm not boring anyone, but we're almost done the server.js file. It's so much easier when like I've done it all like on my own, and I'm just like explaining and like doing the application, because to be honest, like it's not an easy task. I hope you're bearing with me through my explanations. Hopefully it's making sense though and you're following along. So over here, this is actually something I found. It's the console.error, and then you can see there's like another error here. It's for improved error logging. It's actually something I found on GPT. So I didn't do this code alone. I had a variety of tutorials, things like Stack Overflow. I think I've already explained, but I just want to bring that to light, that not everything is from my head, and I'm just, using resources as well. But the last part for the this part for server.js is going to be for starting the code. Starting the server, not starting the code. We've already done that. But we're going to start the server now. So yeah, that's pretty exciting, I think. Okay. Console.log. So this part right here is important because don't know why I did that. Give me a second. Yeah, this should make more sense. Okay, there. I was like, why does this not make sense? So the server is going, because remember, it's a web application on my computer, and we're going to be on a local host. So the server is going to be ran on a local host. So the URL is going to be http semicolon / so it's going to be on localhost. Literally, that's what it is. And then it's going to be on whatever port. So this is pretty cool. I don't know why I like this part so much, but it's going to be on the port, and then close that. So that's the local host port that it's going to be on. So this is starting the Express server, and is going to listen to any of the requests. Hopefully this all made sense. So this was it for, I'm pretty sure like this is it for the back end, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. Like we did our models, we did our routes, we did our server.js. I think we're good to move to the front end. If there's anything wrong with the back end, any issues you see, any questions you have, put it in the comments. But if not, I think we should be good for initializing and starting the front end. Okay, so one thing that is really important is that when you're importing something, so let's say I imported Express, Cores, Mongoose, all of this stuff, it needs to be downloaded into whatever environment you're working in. So I'll show you how to do that in Terminal really quickly, but we also need to initialize the project. So if you're in VS Code, which I am right now, you can bring your mouse up and there should be some option for terminal, and you're gonna just press new terminal. The it looks like there's also a shortcut, I think, for it. I don't know what it is, but yeah, you're just gonna go to the new terminal. So now we're in a terminal in VS Code right here, and I'm going to just initialize the project, yeah, with this command. Okay, and then we also need Express, cores, and mongoose, because these are the things that we just imported, right? So you're going to go into the VS Code, and we're going to do npm install Express, cores, and mongoose. So when you do that, you're going to see that it's going to look, it just uploaded all of those things that we did right there. We have the Mongo, cores, and yeah, Express. So thank God it did that. I don't know if it would work, but yeah, that was good. What we're gonna do is we're going to set up the front end, and yeah, so the back end is pretty much done. Okay, so you're gonna go back to your terminal window and make sure you're in this folder. So I remember you're gonna cd into, change the directory to your desktop, and then we're going to go into the Astro-Tasks 1 folder. So we're literally in this folder right now. Now we want to make a directory for the front end, and we want to navigate to it. So what we did for the back end, we want to do for the front end. So here's my backend folder. Now we want to create a front end folder. So I'm going to make a directory, and I'm going to call it Astro-Tasks front end 1. Now, if you go into it, you can see it's right here. It's empty, obviously, but we made the folder. Now we're going to cd, change the directory to be in that folder. Okay, now we're in the front end folder. In the front end, I think before we have to initialize the React application inside of the front end, because that's usually where it is. So the back end is more for like the server. This is more for the React application. So you're going to run this command, which is literally just creating the React application in the front end. You can see. So it looks like it's just installing the packages and might take a couple minutes. But again, it's literally just installing React. You can see it's all initializing now. Okay, good. So now it's going to suggest that we begin by typing cd client. So I'm going to cd client. Okay, good. Now what we're going to do is install Axios. So Axios is really important. I don't know if it's Axios or Axios. I say Axios. Bear with me if that's not how you say it. But this is good because we need this for the requests. I can explain it a little later. But it's basically like we're making all these requests, right? Like the put request, the get request, delete. What else is there? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. Like the post request. So this is important because this is going to be good like for that. Now, so we're going to go back into our VS code file. You can see that we have our back end and our front end. So I'm going to just close the back end for now. I'm going to actually close this terminal for now. I'm going to go into the front end. So when you initialize the React application, which is what we did before, remember, I think it was like right here, you can directly edit an existing file called app.js. So that's the first file that we're going to go through. you're going to find that. So you're going to go into your front end, and it should be an SRC. So there's like a bunch of folders within the front end folder. You're going to go into the SRC folder, and then you're going to press app.js. You can see that it's already like, there's already some, even like app.css, we have a React application, right? So it kind of gives us like some default code, but we're going to start with app.js, and we're going to go through that. I don't know if you can tell, but the front end is definitely bulkier than the back end, because in the back end we only had like 3 files. This one, there's like a React application. I think the front end is harder, but we're just gonna take it one step at a time. Okay, so now that we're in app.js, the first thing we're gonna do is import some statements. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and I think just delete this stuff for now, because I kind of know what we need. So the first thing I want to do is, since we're in app.js, I want to import React. So I'm going to do the command that's going to import React, and then I'm going to do the string just like this. This is going to import React along with some other features. Next I'm going to do is I'm going to import Axios, of course from Axios, just like that. Next thing I'm going to do is import, okay, so this is actually interesting. So I'm going to import a CSS file. I'll get to what that is, but basically, so I'm going to be importing this file called app.css. So I'm going to do the dot, so it's in the same directory, and it's going to be called app.css, and then semicolon. The reason for app.css is it's a file for styling. You can actually see it right here. So it's in the SRC folder. It's already made when you have a React application. That's why I did this dot right here, because it's in the same directory. We're gonna get through that later, but right now we're gonna import it. The last thing we want to do is, okay, so this is actually, this might cause an issue. We're gonna see if I can spell it. So let me just type it out. It's gonna be in this voice dictation. Okay, yeah, I think there might be a problem with this one, but basically, so this is a file we haven't made yet, but I know I want to, so I know that in my application, I want to include a voice dictation feature for the web app, so I'm just gonna add it for now. It's gonna be in this file called components, so you can see right here, and then it's going to be called voice dictation. That's like the feature I want. That's what the file is gonna be called. I'm gonna import it right now. It doesn't look like there's actually, I thought there would be like a problem in the terminal. There's not right now, but we are going to create this file manually. For now, I think it's okay. Yeah, okay, I think it's okay for now. Okay, so the next thing, we're gonna do some functional, like component stuff almost. So, okay, let's get the brackets. Okay, and then okay, so the first line has this app here, which is basically the main functional component of the application. So I think, yeah, that's the main application part. And then this next line here is going to be called set tasks. And then I'm going to use the use state. Yeah, just like that, semicolon. Okay, so it has a use state here, you can see right there, which is gonna hold the tasks. So this is gonna hold the tasks, and then set tasks is gonna update the tasks. And then the last thing I'm going to do is basically like the same format. So it's gonna be new task, and then I'm going to do set new task, and then, oh, I cannot spell. And then I'm going to do the same use state, and then this time it's going to just be an empty string. Okay, so this line right here is the same thing, but the difference is that it has an empty string for a new task, which is what's going to hold the input value for the new task. So when I press add new task, that's this empty part right here, that's going to be like whatever the person ends up, I guess, typing out, whatever the user ends up typing out, that's what's going to be there. All right, so let's just continue. So what I'm doing here is, oh, give me a second. I think it should be like this. Okay, so basically I'm gonna type this React hook that's gonna let the following code run. So whatever I'm gonna type out there, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, but whenever I do end up getting confused, the react.dev, so the developer website, it's really helpful, or like other resources like Stack Overflow. So I feel like the next part is going to look a little complicated, but trust me, this part I kind of got from like online resources, and yeah, so it's basically this just React hook that I got from that website, which I thought was really helpful. So yeah, I'm gonna type that out. Right now you can see that I'm making a GET request. So the .get, and then we have to do, okay, and then for this part, so since it's a GET request to the backend server to fetch all the tasks. So this is, okay, I also got to add the link to the local host. So it's going to be http:// and then obviously localhost. And then it's going to be 508 because I think that's what I had before. Yeah, so that's the link for the localhost, and the port, which we're using at the end point. Okay, and then next thing is I'm going to do .then. So .then. So .then is going to execute the function if the request is successful. Okay, and then this set tasks right over here, and then like the set tasks, whatever is in the bracket there, it's gonna update the tasks state with the new or the added tasks. And then the next part, I'm gonna do right there, .catch, and then it's going to be the error. So this part that I'm doing right now, so it's gonna execute the function if the request fails. So if it fails and it logs the error to the console. So you can see I'm doing a console.error. If there's an error with it, it's going to give a message, error fetching tasks. I think, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then do that, and then that's going to be the error. Okay, I think that is it. And then okay, now what we're gonna do, sorry, okay. Okay, so this is good. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just like skip a line, I think, there. And I want to do a notification permission thing, because if I want like the voice dictation feature, in like the browser, if you've ever been on like a website, there's usually something that pops up where it's like allow this or allow like microphone or whatever. That's what I'm gonna add here. So the next part, I'm gonna just do double bracket double slash so that I can specify that this is what I want to do. So it's going to be this part is going to be for requesting the notification permission aspect. So first thing, I like this part because I feel like it's pretty straightforward. So it's going to be if notification, so you can see it right here. If notification dot permission, and then it's literally just going to do granted. It's like this, and then notification has to request it, and then this is the close one. Let me just like figure out the brackets. Okay, yeah, so fix up the brackets. Basically, so this part is checking if the notification permission is granted, and the last part is requesting the notification permission if it's not already granted on the browser. Then the next part I'm going to do, so these next few lines we're going to work on is adding a task function. So yeah, this is going to be for adding a task function. So the first thing is you're going to do, since it's adding a task, you're going to do the constant for add task, and then yeah, just like that. So this add task right here is a function in code to just add the task, and then this stuff you see in the bracket is the new task input that we want. So it's like whatever the input is, that's going to be added there. Okay, and then I'm going to do if. So actually this part is interesting. So that part right there, so task.trim is actually, I actually found this on Stack Overflow, but basically it removes white space from both ends of the string and checks if the task is not an empty string, or else obviously you don't want a blank task. So let's say I'm trying to add the task but it's blank, it's not going to add it because you don't want a blank task. It needs to have some like characters or letters, whatever. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and that's something that you would add in the task, in the adding the task. The next part, so I'm going to, I feel like the requests, they definitely do get easier as you go. I'm going to copy and paste this link because I don't want to type that all out again. Yeah, I gotta stay in the bracket. So here I'm making a post request. So any request is basically to the back end. So I'm making a post request to the backend server to add a new task. So if we just continue, so the title is going to be the task and then false. Okay, good. Yeah, this is looking good. And then so this dot then, so if you see right here, that from before, it like if you remember it from before, but remember it's gonna execute the function if the request is successful. So we saw that here. Now we're seeing it again because it's gonna execute it if it's if it was successful. So we're gonna do the same there. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing with the set tasks. So it's a very similar format. And then, yeah, I'm gonna do the tasks. I think you're gonna hear that word so much. Okay, and then this dot catch right here. I'm gonna do, also, I don't think I explained. I wanna try and explain everything, but set tasks, this part I'm highlighting right there, it's gonna update the task state with the new task that's included. So this is all basically a part of like the adding the task feature, but this just updates it if someone like adds a task. And then I think we already saw this part as well. So this is like very, very similar to this. This stuff is basically this stuff right here. So I'm going to do the console.error, and then I'm going to do error adding task, because this was for fetching it. Now we're doing error for adding the task. And then we're going to do the same format. It's like this. And then, so yeah, the .catch is going to execute the request, the function if the request fails. Console.error is going to log and display the error to the console, and then this is the semicolon to obviously add the statement. And then the last line, I believe I'm going to do here, yeah, empty string. Okay, and that, so since we're adding a new task section, this part here is going to clear the input field by setting new task to an empty string. Okay, and then I'm going to quickly close off the brackets, and then we will start on the next part. Okay, so I really want a voice feature for Astro-Tasks. So since so that there's a way that you can verbally say your task without manually having to type it. And since the web app was technically designed for astronauts, I thought that it would honestly be a really useful feature. So that's why the next few lines, I think it's only going to be like 3 or 4 lines, is going to be for the voice transcript feature, because I really wanted that feature and I thought it would be really useful. So this is all going to be for the voice, the dictation part. Okay, so what I just did there, so handle transcript, this is a function. I forgot where I saw it, but it's gonna handle the voice transcript and all the other code from the voice dictation component I have like yet to add it. But all of that, it's gonna handle all of that voice transcript, and that's gonna be a new file in the VS Code environment that we're gonna add soon. Okay, and then the next part, I'm going to do set new task. So obviously this is for adding a task with the transcript. And then semicolon. So set new task, all of this part right here. So that set new task, I think we've seen it like so much at this point, but that function, it's been coming up a lot. And if you see what's right after it, which is the transcript, essentially it's going to update the new task. So it's going to update the new task with the transcript. And then you're going to add the task. So you're going to add the task using the add task function from the transcript. Okay. We're almost done with the feature stuff, I think. So again, another cool feature I thought, would be interesting to add would be able to click on a task and it marks it as complete. So if you have like a list of tasks and you just press one, it'll mark it as complete. So it's like the toggle task completion thing I was mentioning before. You're gonna see it again. So I'm going to do the constant because I think I called it toggle. I called it toggle task completion. So the toggle task completion right here, this is simply a function to toggle the completion status of a task. And it's the ID, so that's why you see ID. It's the ID of the task being toggled, since they all have their unique ones. Here you see transcript, here it's going to be the ID. So that's, I think, that's how you kind of differentiate it. And then, so the tasks.find, tasks.find, and then you're going to find it by the ID, ID, yeah, just like that. So the tasks.find right here, it's going to just find the task in the task array by its ID again. Okay, and then axios.put. So this is going to make a put request I'm going to set it to this, oh, sorry, put in a string like that. It's going to make a put request to the backend server to actually update the task completion status. And the localhost part, so this is obviously the endpoint or the local host server. And then after that, and then I'm going to add 2 more lines, which I'll quickly explain, and then we're going to move on to another feature. Okay, so the rest here was just like honestly simply for the errors. Okay, so the next part we're gonna work on is the trigger notification. So I want this feature. I know I keep adding like features and features, but I thought this would be cool if a user got a notification reminder for their tasks if it seems overdue. I'm not 100% sure about this. I'm like positive about the voice dictation and the toggle task one, but I'm not like too sure about this one, to be honest. I think I set it in server.js. I set it to like every hour, but I still obviously want to add the trigger notification. I think it might be a little rushed to the other section. So this time I think I'll hopefully explain the why behind it better. But yeah, let's just, so obviously with all these features, you're gonna start with this trigger, it's not a trigger. You're gonna start with like some sort of constant or the function. So this one I'm starting with the trigger notification. That's what it's gonna be called. Okay, so I'm gonna do the permission, notification permission, and then granted. Okay, so before sending a notification, you need to actually check if the user has granted permission for your site to show the notification, which is important, obviously, to respect the user settings. And then the next part is going to, so I'm going to do new notification. I'm going to create, because, you know, you obviously want to have the permission, but then I'm going to create the notification now. Yeah, I'm going to create that now. And then I'm going to create it with a body. So reminder for task is what it's going to be. And then, okay, so I'm going to create a new notification. It's basically going to have a title, a body, and an icon. I don't know if this, okay, I'm just going to add this because, yeah. Okay, let me just close this all up. But so the title is basically giving context. The body, so where's the title? The body provides details, and the icon makes it visually identifiable. That's literally, that's what I wanted to do there. That's going to be for the notification aspect. Okay, now we want to work on a notification interval. So I'm going to start with use effect. So the use effect is a hook that is used to set up a side effect in React. In this case, it's going to be an interval that periodically checks if the task, if any of the tasks are due for a reminder. Again, we got to this point because I know that the front end is going to take care of the recurring actions in the app. So things like checking for due reminders, and then realize that we have to set up an interval. So in React, the side effects are typically managed by using the use effect hook. I hope that made sense. Now we're going to do const interval. I'm going to set the interval. Okay, so set interval right over there. This sets up an interval that's going to run for a set period of time. And also set interval, it's pretty standard like JavaScript function for running code at regular intervals. Okay, I don't want to explain this part, but I want to go over the next part. Okay, so this part I'm going to type out is, okay, so if the new date, and then task, I think it's going to be reminder time. Okay, so this is going to look over the task to check if any of them have a reminder time that has passed and aren't yet complete. That's, yeah, that's, oh, cannot spell. Task reminder time. And then it's going, so just kind of what I just explained now. So it's going to check if it was completed. And then if not, it's going to trigger the notification by the task title and then close that off. And then close all the other stuff off. Oh, and then this one right here. Okay, I think we got that part. Yeah, okay. And then basically what I did for the next part was, so when the task state changes, the interval is cleared to prevent any further like unnecessary processing. And then it's actually something I learned from troubleshooting when you set up intervals in React, because it's really important to like clean them up and avoid any issues. Okay, so all of this here is for rendering the component. So you're probably like, how did we get here? So I actually thought that the best way to explain this very last section of app.js would not be by me writing out each code line by line and explaining it, but rather writing it all out and explaining it in chunks, because it is pretty dense, and I can't lie, I had a lot of issues with this part the most. So I'm gonna just choose like some areas. So the first one here, so if you see here, this div acts as a container for the entire app, which means that it's gonna wrap all the content of the app component. So wrapping the content in a main div with a class, so class name app, with a class app is going to allow us to easily style the entire application, and it's also going to be the root element that contains and organizes the app structure. So long story short, it's pretty important. I know that was kind of like a lot, but it's pretty important. Okay, this part right there, so this section contains the header of the application. You can see there's an H1 element displaying the title, so I chose Astro-Tasks. I literally just, like, you can do anything, like Astro-Tasks, hi, but like I'm gonna do Astro-Tasks, right? Sorry, what did I do? Okay, anyways, whatever, it's fine. So that's gonna be the title, Astro-Tasks. Pretty straightforward, I think. This part right here, so the div again contains everything related to managing the tasks, including the input for new tasks and the list of existing tasks. This one right here, it's going to wrap the input field, and then the add task button, which we'll get to later. So it's going to wrap that and the add task button, and the voice dictation component, which we also got to get to later as well. A lot of things we still got to work through. And then, so this is the text input where the user can type the name. So they're going to type the name of a task. type equals text right here specifies that this is a text input field, so it's for text. The placeholder new task right there shows placeholder text inside the input field where the user starts typing. So if you've ever been on a website and you're going to type something and you see like some random, like some almost, it's kind of like grayed out, it's going to be called the new task. So where you're going to have the input field, that's going to be there as a placeholder basically. This line right there that I'm highlighting, it's going to bind the input value to the new task right here, to the new task state variable. And then last thing, on change, this part right here is updating the new task state. So you can see it's updating the new task state whenever the user types something in the input field. This part here, so this button is actually going to trigger the add task. So the add task function when it's clicked, and it's going to add the task from the input field to the list of tasks. Buttons are super easy to actually trigger applications in web applications, or sorry, to trigger actions in web applications. How it works here is that the button initiates the task adding process by calling the add task function with the current value of new task. This, you can tell that obviously this is going to apply to voice dictation. So it's going to handle the voice input. When the user speaks, the on transcript function is called in, and it's going to connect the voice input to the existing task management system. And then div, okay, here, this UL element you see right there, it's called unordered list, and that's going to contain the list items for each task. And then the last part I'm going to go through is pretty much all of this stuff there. Okay, so let me just go here. Okay, I think I said I'm going to explain this part there. So this code is going to map over the task array, the tasks array, and it's going to make a list item for each task. And then now I'm just going to, I think, point out some important features. So right here, so this dot map is actually a powerful array method in JavaScript that's going to allow you to iterate over an array and return a new array of elements. And I'm saying arrays so much because we're dealing with tasks. So simply put, in this case, it's going to be used to generate the list of the tasks. Over here, so key equals, and then curly brackets, task dot underscore ID. The key part is going to help. So the key part is going to help React efficiently update and render the list by keeping track of each task's identity. And then even this part right here, this applies a CSS based on whether the task is completed, and it's like honestly just basically for styling. Here, this part is going to click. So when you're clicking the task title, it's going to toggle its completion status, and we'll hopefully just check it off. So I'm thinking just like a line through. And then Axios.delete. So the delete button sends a delete request, sends a request to delete the task, and then updates the state to remove it from the list. And then last thing here, so export default app. So pretty much this is all like troubleshooting. And then this was like just closing it off. This part right here is going to allow the app component to be exported and easily imported into the other files. We even did that in like server.js. So if I want to import basically like all of this stuff into other files, all I got to do is just export the app component right there. So yeah, that was a lot for the final component of app.js. Let's just do a quick summary of how I actually got all that. So I started with the UI, and I actually did a rough sketch of how I wanted the UI to look like. So where each task input would go, I had like a sticky note, and I literally just like before I started anything, I just like started like looking at what did I want the task web app to look like. So I started with that, and where like each task input would go, how the tasks would be listed, the buttons, titles, etc. So I thought about all the components. So from like voice dictation to checking off task, and then I just made sure that I integrated it with the backend. So for example, when I was adding the task to send data to the server, you have to update the front end state, and then you just go from there. So yeah, the next thing we're going to do in the front end is, so since we're already in the front end, we're going to go into this. So we're still in the SRC folder, which, by the way, the SRC folder is where you put all the assets for your application. We're going to create a new folder within this one called components. So we're in the SRC file. You're going to right click and do new folder, and it's going to be called components, just like that. So that's going to store some of the UI components. And then within this folder, we're going to create, so right click and press new file. You're going to create that file called voice dictation.js, which is the one, if we go back, that's the one that we imported. Yeah, right here. So that's the one that we imported, and now you can actually see that it's here. So now we're going to go through this one. So it's in the front end within the SRC within the components files. So the first thing I actually like to do when, I don't know if you can, so we're in the front end, and then we're in the SRC folder, and then we're in the components folder, and now we're in the voice dictation file. Sometimes it gets a little confusing, so at the very top, and it might be useful for later, I'm gonna actually like literally just write out everything I said. So we're in, and I did double slash because I don't want this to be right in the code. We're in the SRC, and then we're in components, and then this file is going to be called voice dictation.js. That's how we're starting. Okay, now we're gonna actually start. So I want to import React again. Wait, let me just, this is gonna be so much easier. Oh, but, okay. So we're importing React, since it's the application for the web app, and the useState hook is going to be used to manage the voice dictation component. So simply put, we need to manage whether the microphone is currently listening and handle any errors that occur. So we'll just use this useState right there. Okay, and then I'm going to start with the defining a function called voice dictation. Oh. Yeah, so I just defined a function that's going to be called voice dictation. And the on transcript is a function that's passed down from the parent component, so app.js, that we created originally, that is going to handle the text transcribed from the speech. So anything I say, turning that into the transcript, because the parent component needs to know when speech has been transcribed so it can add the task. Okay, and then this part, listening. Yeah, and then I'm gonna actually close that off and then use useState again. So the listening part right there is gonna track whether the microphone is actively listening. That's why I did set listening, and the useState in that case is gonna actually be turned off. Or is going to be false, right? And then this part is for errors. Use state again and Okay, and then the error is going to track any errors that occur, obviously. We need this to manage the component's behaviors, so whether it's listening or not listening, and handle any potential errors. Again, using the useState hook is going to allow us to easily manage those components and those functions. I think that's how you should think about that. And then I'll just skip a line, skip a few lines, and I'm gonna actually type the following part out super quickly and explain that part. Okay, so I typed that part out super quickly, and I'm gonna explain what it does, why, and how we got here. So, alright, so what this is doing is actually checking if the browser supports speech recognition API. So checking if it supports that browser, and it gives a fallback message if it doesn't. That's what that part is there. So sorry, your browser doesn't support speech recognition. If you don't know what the speech recognition API is, don't worry, but we need it so that we can use voice dictation in the application. And the API is just giving me that like code. Trust me, I did not know what an API was until like a couple months or weeks ago. So it's just like giving you the code without me having to type it all out, if that makes sense. So hopefully you've heard of the OpenAI APIs. So if you import that, it kind of gives you like some of the like functionalities and abilities that ChatGPT has or any of their products. So in this case, I'm using the speech recognition API. Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna start from there. Okay, so this part that I'm typing out right now, yeah, speech recognition. That part that I typed out right now, it's going to be the main component for the start and stopping of the speech recognition. Okay, and then I'm going to do continuous. Why is it not giving me continuous? Okay. So the continuous equals false is what's gonna stop listening after the user stops speaking. So if I stop speaking, it's kind of me being like, I'm done, talking, like, right? Okay. Recognition dot enter, and then results. So this whole part right there, and then equals false. So that returns the final result. So that means that after you're done speaking, and it's not like right in the middle of while you're speaking. And last part for this little section, recognition.lang. This is like a super easy. Lang is obviously language. Okay, maybe it's not that easy. I can't type. This line here, I literally just set the language to US English for recognition. And again, it might look a little complex, but I just kind of got here by researching more into the speech recognition API, and I just determined how to set it up for basic and single command usage. So yeah, that's what I did there. Okay, so I just defined a start listening function that starts the speech recognition and handles the errors. And then I'm going to set listening to true, and then start recognition dot start. No, not start. Okay, so This is, so right here, that's going to update the state to true to indicate that the microphone is listening. And this simply just starts the speech recognition process. That's why you see recognition.start. I'll skip another line and I'll go recognition. So recognition.onResult is going to capture, I think I spelled that right. Oh, what? Event. Why is it doing that? Okay, I'll look at that a little after, but that's kind of weird. But that part is going to capture the recognition, the recognized speech, and then it's going to like extract the transcript. So over here, I'm going to literally like extract the transcript. Okay. And then it's going to pass it to this on transcript function. Okay, there, just like that. Okay, and then I'll just skip a few more lines. Okay. So this recognition.onError is going to handle the errors by updating the error state. Oh my god, why is it doing this? Oh, I didn't do equals. Oh my god. I was like, why is it crossing it out? It's actually so weird. Okay. Okay, there. I was so close to I was like really confused at that point, but yeah. And then I'm going to do the error. So I feel like whenever there's code, it usually involves some sort of like troubleshooting, right? And then close that up. Oh, I can close it here. I don't even know what these are, but I'm just gonna focus on those after. And then, yeah, and then recognition dot on end. Nothing's gonna be in there. So that part right there ensures that the listening state is set to false. So I'm gonna actually write that out so it's not confusing. So it's going to ensure that the listening state is set to false when the recognition ends. Okay, so basically with that whole section of code I just went through, we need to manage the entire life cycle of a speech recognition from the start to processing the results, handling the errors, and then the ending. So the event handler is given by the speech recognition API. So things like the on result, on error, on end, those all just ensure that the things are going smoothly pretty much. And then I'll just include one more section. Actually, maybe a few more. We'll see. Okay, so we're defining a stop listening function, which stops speech recognition and will update the state. So with that is going to come recognition.stop because we're stopping that. And then the set listening is going, hopefully you got it as false. Yeah, so we're just going to use the recognition.stop method to stop the voice dictation process. because users obviously need the ability to manually stop the voice dictation process so it doesn't just keep going and going, so this function, like all that stuff, is just providing that control. Okay, last part, because I just wanted to quickly end off the voice dictation part. But so these lines pretty much like all here, I created a button that toggles between like starting and stopping the listening and displaying the errors. So over here you can see I have button, and then one for stop listening and then one for start listening. Okay, and then the button is going to, so basically like this stuff here, the button is going to give a clear way for the users to actually interact with the speech recognition feature, either by like stopping it or by starting it. And then like obviously buttons, I want the UI to be like easy and intuitive, and the buttons just make that super like user friendly. So, and then this last line right here, export default voice dictation. Hopefully you can guess what that is from like past files, but the last line for the voice dictation feature is going to export the voice dictation component as the default, so as the default export of the module. So we want to be able to export the component and import it, like, export it and then import it to be used in other applications, just like in app.js. So now, since I did this part, my feature is actually going to work in the React application because I imported it in app.js and I actually allowed that to happen. It's kind of like a common theme with the last line for all of these components being for exporting them, because that's honestly just really standard practice for React, and it just makes the environment cleaner and easier to work with. But yeah, we are done at voice dictation.js. It actually went faster than I thought. I think we did pretty good. All right, so of course this is a task management app. So we're gonna have a task component in the React application. But what's also important is the styling of it. So we have a tasks component, but we also want to style it and make sure that it looks nice. So we're gonna create a file that's gonna keep our task component visually appealing and user-friendly. Since it's the tasks component, we're gonna stay in this components file right over there in VS Code, and we're just gonna make a file called tasks.css. So I'm going to right click on this and title it tasks.css. So the file is going to basically include all the general styles for the entire page, as well as things like specific styles for the app, like headers, titles, input fields, and buttons. I also want to preface by saying that I actually found this file kind of hard because you literally have to play around with all the sizing and the spacing when you're building from scratch. But I've already played around with it, so I'm just gonna explain the CSS that I thought was like the best, so I don't spend like 2 hours on trial and error. So I'm not gonna do like a whole other like trial and error thing. I'm just gonna explain what I thought was the best. And since CSS contains things like colors and fonts, I'm going to show you real quick the color theme and the font theme. I thought that was the closest to space theme because remember it was like for space, and I'll explain how you get there. So yeah, that's basically what I want to say for tasks.css. Over here in our file, we're just going to start with a general styles. So this is just gonna be for our general styles. But first, I'm gonna actually show you how I chose my fonts and the colors for the app. And by the way, I'm not gonna lie, this is probably like the funnest part of everything, maybe. But yeah, so here are my colors and my fonts for Astro. So I chose lots of blues. I just kind of put in this Notion page. So first thing you want to do is if you go to coolers.co, and so you're going to click on start the generator, you'll be brought to this page. If you click, so I'm going to click the spacebar on my keyboard, just like this, just like that. 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 random colors with their names, so you can see their names right here, so like cadet gray, and their hex code. Those are going to appear, and it's really cool. So it's like generating different options for you. And if you see a color you really like, so let's say I'm like, okay, I don't know what I like, and I'm like, okay, well, I like myrtle green. You can press this toggle lock. You can press that lock button right there, press the spacebar again, and you'll get different colors except for the one that you locked. So like, you know, let's say I like a bunch of these colors. I'm just gonna choose like, I don't know, this one. And then I like this one, let's say. And then I keep pressing the space bar, eggshell shore. Let's say, so, okay, let's just keep going. These are kind of ugly, but okay, let's say that there was a color that I wanted before, and like I couldn't, and like I skipped it. If you go to your arrow and you press the back arrow, you can actually get it back. So these are all past ones. Or even if you do the forward arrow, that's the same thing as a space bar. So whatever you want, but let's say I press the back arrow because I want this color right here. I'm gonna lock those, and those are basically just gonna be, that's how I literally chose this color palette right here. I just started going through it, and that's what I really wanted. And then same thing if, I'm pretty sure that when you're like generating it, so let's say like the first color I locked was this, it'll generate colors that are like very similar or thinks it's gonna like mesh well with. So it's not like completely random, right? But I think that when you're working with CSS and like, because it consists of like colors and fonts and all that stuff, it's so useful when you have like a color theme. So I'm gonna actually, yeah, so, and then it gives you the hex codes as well. So I think super cool. I just wanted to show that if you didn't know what that was, because that's where I got those colors from. But yeah, let's just continue. Okay, so first thing I'm going to type out is body and then curly bracket, and I'm just gonna skip like a bunch of lines over there. So this basically means that everything I'm gonna write in like these next few lines is gonna apply to the entire body, and it's gonna be the entire body in the brackets. So those brackets right there. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually set the fonts for the entire page. What I actually found, so you like when you do font dash family, you kind of get like all of these options. What I personally found was, or I think it was Orbitron or something, and like sans serif, yeah, sans serif. I found that those are like super easy to import, and they're like not ugly, so that's good. And then I want to do a background color, so that's not how you spell it, but it's fine, it's here. And it gives you like a bunch of these options, but remember how we already like chose it based off of here. So this is going to be for the background color of the page, and I actually want to make it the what does it say? Delft blue color. So it's this hex code right there. So I'm going to copy the hex code, and I'm going to just put it, oh no, I think I got to do hashtag. Yeah. Oh, and look, see, that comes up as well. Okay, yeah, pretty good. So this part right here, so margin, I'm making the margin 0. That's like setting the margin to 0 is basically removing the default margins and just giving me like full control over the page layout, because I honestly like couldn't figure out what else to do, and I think just by deleting like the default, it just makes it so much easier. Oh my god, what did I even spell? Okay, now for the display. So everything I'm doing here now is going to center the content both horizontally and vertically. That's why you see things like center. So yeah, that's basically, oh, and over here is I'm making it at the full height. And then, oh, my bracket's all the way here. Just like this. So again, this is like centering everything, and then I'm just making this the full height. And then if you skip a line now, so as you can tell, everything for the body is pretty much done. I think like with CSS, it's like fun, but at the same time, it's like really tedious. And I think you'll see why. But now what we want to do is we want to work on the header. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is we're obviously styling the header element. So that's going to contain the app title. I want to set the font size to 36 pixels, I think it is. Yeah. So it's like large and it actually stands out. And then with the font, I'm going to make the font family like pretty much the same. Font family is the same. And then, okay, so the font weight. So this is something I don't think I introduced. So font weight is basically like how bold it is, how bold the weight is, basically, I guess you could say. So I'm adding like a medium to boldish weight to the font to like actually really emphasize it. And then semicolon. And then I want to do the color to a nice, I think I chose linen. Yeah. I'm going to copy and paste that hex code. Make sure you hashtag, and then you do it like that. I'm going to just copy and paste the hex code so that it, you know, it contrasts nicely, because this is the background color, and then the white or like off-white is going to be for the title. And then I'm going to line or like center the header text. So I'm going to text align and then center that. And then with the margin, I'm going to add a space below. I'm going to add a space below the header to actually separate it from the other elements. And that's pretty much it. All right, so now everything in this bracket is going to style the main container for the app. So what I was thinking is that I want there to be like a box or like a container, so that the task list is like inside of it. I think that's a really bad explanation, but you'll see it once I run it. But that's what I'm thinking. So hopefully, yeah, we'll just have to see as we go, right? But it's honestly like, even here you can see it's like pretty much the same thing. I'm just gonna center all the text, and then I want to set the background. Oh, I cannot spell, guys. I'm gonna set the background color to Oxford blue, so that last one right over there, and hashtag, yeah, just like that. I chose that, and then yeah, make sure you copy and paste it, do hashtag. So this padding over here is going to add space inside the container, and make sure that there's nothing going like off the edges. So that's just like a CSS thing. And then I'm gonna make a border, obviously border radius, and then not too much. And then this actually, yeah, this part is new. What it's gonna do is like round the corners of the container. So it's not like a square, but it's like rounded, just to make it more like visually appealing. But I think like overall, the styling is the easiest, but it's the hardest at the same time, because I feel like there's so much like trial and error, but it's like really easy because it seems like there's like a set order for each component. Like this is honestly pretty simple, and it's like really standard for React and for Java. But like, again, I hope I'm doing an okay job at explaining everything, and like going through my thought process. But yeah, pretty much all the same. Now what we're gonna work on, I think, is the input field. Yeah, okay. So what I want to do is do the styling for the text input field. So and I actually have to specify. So this is where the user is going to type and like text. They're going to type some text into this field. So that's like essentially what I'm trying to say is this is where the user is going to type in their task. Like there's still styling for that, but this is where they're going to type it in. So we're going to do all like the standard things. So I'm going to add padding inside the input field and like make the text more readable, and then add space around the input field to separate it from like the other elements. This is actually something I learned. So I'm gonna add the border, and then so the hex code for light gray is literally just like it's like right here, #CCC. So I'm gonna I want that as a border for the input field. So I'm just doing this solid color right there. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then I want to round, remember, so this border radius, you're like rounding the edges of whatever component. I'm only doing it slightly though. And then the font family, because this is the font that the input text is going to use, and I'm just going to make sure that it's using the same font as the rest of the app. Okay. And then the last thing I think I'm going to go through, actually not last thing, we still have a long way. But now what I want to start is the button. So I'm going to just do button. Yeah, just like that. I'll just skip a few. But so of course in the web app, we want like buttons for the user to click on. So whether it's like adding the task button, start listening for the voice dictation feature, stop listening, any of those buttons, I want to, show how to style those buttons in the app because it's pretty important. Okay, yeah. So first thing we're gonna do is add the padding inside of the button to like just make it easier and bigger to click. Now what we want to do is add the spacing. So I'm like literally just doing like the same things that I did here. It's basically like a pattern, and then obviously it's going to be the border. And I actually don't want any border. Yeah, so I'm just gonna give it like the default. So I'm gonna remove the default actually border to give it like a cleaner look because I don't really want that. And then I'm gonna round the corners of the elements. Oh, I cannot spell. I'm gonna round it so that it kind of matches the other UI elements. And then, okay, so this is actually something that's only applicable to buttons. So you're gonna do cursor, semicolon, and then pointer. So what that does is it actually changes the cursor, since it's like a web app, to a pointer when you hover over a button to like indicate that it's clickable. So if you've ever been on like a website and you're like over a button and you want to click it, so like honestly, I kind of want to show, like let's just say I'm on Google. This is technically a button. See how my like the cursor kind of changes to like the pointer? So it's like different. Even here, it's gonna change, right? So that's kind of what I want for this. That's what I did there. And then the last thing is the font family. I just want to be consistent with the overall like font style. And yeah, that was honestly it for the buttons. There's still more stuff for the buttons, but I think for now, yeah, I think this should be okay. Okay, so I actually found this in like, it was like an article called like the best CSS button tricks or something like that. But so what was included was something called a hover state for the button. So basically what I'm doing in this line right here is I'm defining that. So I want to, oh, clearly I cannot spell, guys, so you just gotta bear with me. Okay, what's wrong? Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, hover. Yeah, button and then hover. Okay, but it's basically like the hover state for the button. So I'm like, again, I'm just gonna define that. And then what this does is I'm actually reducing, since it's gonna be less than 1, I'm reducing the opacity slightly when the button is hovered over so that like the user can see that it's clickable. And I don't know, I thought that would be just super easy to like implement and add. I think it's pretty cool. So it's like when you're on, like, you know, you're about to click a button and like the opacity, like it becomes lighter and it becomes more opaque. I just thought that would be really cool. And then for this next part, it's going to be for the container. And like whenever I say that, I kind of mean like this box of color, if that makes sense. So it's not like a border, but it's kind of like the background in a way. But it's going to be like the container for the new task input. So that's why I'm doing dot new task. And then I'm just going to do the brackets again. But yeah, so when like you press add task, it's going to come up. And when there's a task, there's also going to be the container around said task. And I'm going to introduce something, and it's going to be a flex box. So this is what it's going to look like. This in CSS is usually for lists. So it's to lay out the elements in like a row. And the elements in this case are like the tasks or the input. So it's just like making it or more organized, I guess. And then over here, I'm going to center the input button just horizontally, just like that. Oh, why do I keep saying button? Bottom. And then I'm going to add space below the container. So that's where I'm doing margin bottom. So it's below to separate it from the task list and just like make everything look neater. Okay, now we're going to be styling the input within the task container that I like just previously styled. So it's going to be the input. Oh, what? The input. And yeah, so it's like just the code right on top here. And then this. Okay, so that's going to allow the input or the, like slash the tasks to take up all of the available space in the container. That's basically what I just typed out there. Okay, and then now what I want to do is I want to do the styling for the button within that task container and like make sure it looks nice. That's why I'm going to do new task and then the button for it. So I want to make the background color. I got to choose a color. We're going to do, I think, rose taupe. Yeah, this rose color over here. Copy and paste the hex code and you'll see it come up there. I honestly just thought that that would be a really nice color. And then over here, so this makes sure that the color, so I'm just gonna do color, and then I want just a white color. So the hex code for white, it's like really standard. It's like, yeah. Is that 6? I can't see. Yeah, I think that is. But yeah, basically I'm making it that white color so that contrasts well with that rose background that I chose. Okay, so first of all, I hope you're still like with me, but we did the styling for the input container. Now I'm gonna do this styling for the task list container. So it's gonna be like this square, and then there's gonna be like another one within it. And like now I'm doing the bigger one. So there's gonna be like this container and then another one within it, but I'm gonna work on the bigger one for now, which is gonna have the task. You can see I did the task list. Okay, so I'm going to remove the default bullets, the default bullet points, because usually when you're working with lists, that's like a default. And then I'm gonna remove the default padding so that I can keep it aligned with like the other stuff. And yeah, I think that's good. Okay, now what we want is the styling. So I want to style each task like item in the list. So when like a user, they do add task, each task is going to be its own entity. So I want to like style each of those is basically what I'm trying to state. So this is going to be task list, and then you're going to see this li here. So that's why, so since I'm styling each task item in the list, that's why there's an li for list. And then I'm gonna make the color one that I haven't used. I think I haven't used this Bondi blue. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna use that blue. Yeah, just like that. Oh, this looks wrong. What did I do? Is it background? Oh, okay, there's no, I was like, what? Okay, sorry, yeah. I'm like from Canada, so I was like, oh, let me put a U, but it doesn't work. Okay. And then, yeah, okay, so that's like a color I haven't used before. And then I'm gonna actually set the text color to the white one, so like this off-white linen color, so that it contrasts nicely again. And then we're gonna add padding in the side so that it's gonna be like inside each task item for like just better spacing. And then the margin, so I'm gonna add spacing between each task item so that it's not like all like smushed together. Yeah, so it's not like all, you know, smushed together. And then I want to round the corners again. So I'm going to just use this 5 because I've been using it pretty much everywhere there. Yeah, so this is all going to be so much more simpler once you see it. So just like stick with me a little longer. And then, so these next few lines is you can see that I'm using the flex box again. And I'm just going to align the text and the buttons with each task item so that it looks nice. This is content. And last thing is I want to align the items, what I just said. Yeah, so just kind of reiterated a lot of that, but okay, good. Okay, so this part right here is like a super duper like small detail. Did I even get that right? Okay, yeah, we're gonna leave it. But it's like a really small detail, but I'm gonna style the completed task. So I'm adding a feature that when you click on a task, it does like that line through so that it's crossed off. So that's what I wanna do. So when a task in the list is completed, so you can see completed, I'm gonna make the task decoration, and then I'm just gonna do line through because remember I wanna do that line through, and then I'm going to decrease the opacity so that it's like visually distinguishable amongst completed tasks from the active ones. Okay, I honestly thought that was super repetitive, so we ended off here, and I just kind of quickly put this part all there. So over here, This is going to be the styling of all the buttons within each task item. So I'm thinking that when you have like a task list, there's going to be its own separate button, because like when a user adds a task, underneath it's going to go with like the task list with the container, like the border thing, and then there's going to be a delete button right next to that task so that they can, delete like a specific task. So that's what I'm styling basically here. I'm making the background color the rows, and then I'm gonna just make the color white so that it's like readable and it matches the other ones. Okay, so for the additional styles now, that's what I wanted to show there. So this whole section over here is for styling of the overall container of all of the tasks. So whether I'm like, centering it over here, making it like a dark background color, adding the padding, rounding the corners, and just like making the text white. That's pretty much that is all that happened there. So yeah, I think we are good to go. Same thing. I'm gonna do the next parts. I'm gonna do the next portions, and I'll come back and explain it, because I wanted to go through like the beginning so that you can understand like what's padding, what's margin, how do you implement background color. But now I think I'm gonna do I'm gonna type out what I did for the app, and then I'll just explain it. Okay, so over here, I just styled the input container for the tasks, added a flex box, a gap, and then space, so space below each container. Over here, so we're gonna style the task input field. So that's basically where someone is adding a new task. So I did padding for better readability, a border, rounded the corners, and then made sure that the font styles were consistent. And then this is just like some additional, like this part over here is like some additional styling after like a lot of trial and error. So I'm basically styling the task input button. So I want to keep the colors, it's like in the way. I want to keep the colors the same as this one. Like remove the border, add the padding, round the corners, as you know, keep the fonts consistent. And then I actually also added this part that I explained before, where it's like when you hover over it, it's a cursor. So I did that, so it's like better UX. And then last thing I promise that I want to explain, because like we're done. Last thing real quick so that we can move on. This is the styling for the buttons and making sure that there's consistency. What did I just do? Yeah, making sure that there's consistency. So, and yeah, I'm like trying this again because I'm not sure what's happening with CSS, but I think this is pretty self-explanatory. So again, we have the background color, border, padding, etc. And then the fonts. So this is it for, I just want to say again, this is it. We are done for the tasks.css. So this is within the component. So I just want to clarify that we're going to have one more. It's going to be in like very soon, the next minute. We're going to have another component that's going to be the tasks component, because it's a task management system. So we need a component for the tasks. This is basically styling that whole like file or that whole component. I want to style basically like everything within that component, because you're going to see, you're going to be like, what's the difference between this and this? Like I see another CSS file. There's a difference, but this is for that component. Just remember that. Okay, so the next file is important because it's for all like the features and the functionality of the tasks and all that. So since we just did the styling, as I was explaining before, for the task component, we actually got to do the code for the component. So in the same location, and I believe that this is going to be the last component, you're going to create a JS file called tasks.js. So we're in this component, like directory components. You're going to right click and press new file, and it's going to be called tasks.js. just like that. And this file is for that tasks component that I was talking about earlier. So we did the styling, now we gotta actually do the component. So first thing I like to do when we're in like what we did for voice dictation, when we're in like such a, because it's kind of hard to like navigate sometimes, we're gonna be in the SRC folder and then in the components folder, and then this file is gonna be called tasks.js. Okay, so I'm going to import React. So we're gonna import React. And then it's gonna be, we're gonna import React along with the use state and the use effect hooks from the React library. Again, so what use state over here is, it's going to be used to manage all the states within the component, and then use effect is going to perform all of the side effects. Okay, next thing we're going to import, so for the initial setup, of course, is going to be Axio. So I think I explained what that was before. I think I explained what that was before. So it's actually really good when you're making the API request. So remember, get, delete, put, whatever, when you're like troubleshooting. So I'm actually importing it from a separate file. So I don't think it's gonna, there might be an issue. Maybe not, okay. So I imported it from a separate file that we haven't made yet, which we're gonna get to a little later. But yeah, I'm gonna just import that since there's gonna be a lot of requests and functionalities in this file. And then of course we gotta import, oh, and this dot, like these dots over here, it just means that it's in the same like directory. Now I'm gonna import the CSS file that we worked so hard on, because all that hard work is just gonna be added to the application. So yeah, we're gonna, so it's called tasks.css, yeah. And then I want to import the voice dictation component for the voice input, since it's a component and it's a feature in the task management workflow. So it's gonna be, yeah, it's right here, voice dictation, just like that. And yeah, we basically just imported all of the components in the application. Okay, now what we're gonna do is I'm going to define a tasks, uppercase, functional component. And then put that in brackets. So in React, functional components are an easy way to build like UI components, and it's like, honestly, it's a pretty common approach when you're like developing. Now what I'm gonna do is initialize, so yeah, tasks. So I'm going to initialize and set a new, or do setting like a set tasks function to hold the list of the tasks that is fetched from the back end, because doing it like that, like doing it in this way, is like, and I'm not done actually, let me just finish it. Yeah, so doing it like this and managing the task state is like required when you're making the list of tasks and you're letting the user add or delete or toggle the task completion. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, well, we need to track what the user types into the input field. So since we're tracking what the user types into the input field in order to add it to the new list of tasks, so I initialize the new task as an empty string to actually hold the value of the task input field. Now I'm going to be working on the section for fetching the tasks. So I'm going to add a use effect, and then I'm gonna do, and I'm pretty sure like this is all stuff that might have seen, like you might have seen it before that we were working on. And then it's going to be for the fetch tasks. So fetch tasks is like, what I mean by that is we're just like, we're getting it from the back end. Yeah, just like that, I think. So when we're like fetching the list from the back end as soon as a component loads, so you want to do it as soon as it loads so that the user can actually see their existing tasks. The use effect here with like the empty string with an empty dependency array is like, it's like a go-to method when you're running side effects for data fetching, and I'm using the fetch tasks function from the back end to actually do that. Okay, so this next part is also going to be for the fetching the tasks function. So what I'm going to type out here is, so I'm going to type out that same function, and as you can see here, I just typed out an asynchronous function. So asynchronous functions are really necessary when you're making like API requests, and it's going to allow the app to continue running while it's waiting for the response of while it's waiting for the response of fetching tasks from the server. There's so many words at this point, but yeah, so like you want to make sure that your application can do more than one thing at a time. So that's kind of what that part is there. And then I'm going to equal sign first, and then axios.get. So as you can see there, I did a get request. So it was axios.get to fetch the tasks, since the tasks are stored on the server. So we got to use them, or we got to like fetch them when we're making the API call. And then the axios.get is like, it's really standard when you're doing those get requests. And then I'm going to use the same function again. And so what I did there is I'm updating the task states with the data that's returned from the server. So once the tasks are retrieved, they need to be displayed in the UI. So you want to, like, the user, if I add a task, I want to see it in the UI. So updating the state actually triggers it to show those tasks. And then I'm going to skip a line. Oh, actually, I'm going to close it off. And the next part is literally, like, I feel like at this point we all know what it's going to be. It's for troubleshooting, and then this is going to be the error message. So error fetching tasks. Oh. And then this is going to be the error message if anything wrong happens during that entire process. Yeah, just like that. The next part might be a little bulkier, but it's basically going to be the part for adding a new task. So you're going to see like the word task so much because we're literally like making the component. So yeah, it's going to be for adding a new task. So what I want to do first is I'm going to define another asynchronous function. And you can see it's an asynchronous function when I do this async command right there. And so this time it's not going to be for like retrieving the tasks like I did here. Actually, why is this not aligned? Okay, we're gonna actually, yeah, okay, that's okay. But it's, okay, so it's not gonna be for retrieving the task, but instead it's gonna be for adding a new task to the server. And yeah, it's probably the most important feature of the task management app, which is adding the task. Okay, and then within this, we're gonna, okay, so this is kind of a lot. So let me just, let's just work through it. So we're gonna do Axios, we're gonna do a put request. Actually, no. Actually, ignore what I said. Yeah, I just made a mistake, sorry. Okay, yeah, let me just type this part out. I just typed it. I was like literally like staring at this and just writing it all out. Okay, no, don't do that. Okay, now we're gonna do the try. Okay, I got it. Okay, so that was, yeah, it's kind of a lot what we're gonna do now, but now we're gonna do I was like so close to doing a put request. We're gonna do a post request to the server to add a new task. So I'm gonna do it's gonna be for adding a new task. And then within that, you're going to have the title, and then new task, and then false. This might look a little, like it might look familiar, because we did do something familiar, similar to this, but yeah. And then, okay. So yeah, the Axios.put is gonna basically allow us to send the data to the server like easily. And then this part over here, so set new task. And then I'm gonna just do an empty string. Yeah, so what that's doing is it's adding the new task to the existing list of tasks in the state. So after you add the task, like you're adding the task on the server, you need to update the UI to actually reflect the new task. So spreading the current tasks array, that's kind of what we did there. The array is something that's usually done in React, and it's gonna help us create a new array that's gonna trigger the re-render. Don't worry if that does not like make sense at all. Yeah. And then, so this part here is basically we want to clear the input field by adding a new task, which is something I actually only thought about this after, but yeah, like clearing the input gives the user a clear indication that the task was successful, and it's gonna like reset the form or the input box for the next input. So for example, because I kind of yapped a lot, so I'm gonna add a new task, and then I'm gonna press add task. You want the input field to become empty after that whole process was successful, so that I know it's successful, and it's gonna add it to the server. Hopefully that was a little better. The next few lines is just gonna be for the error. So like it's gonna say error adding task. I'm gonna add that really quickly, and then we're gonna move on to, I think it's gonna be like the deleting aspect of it. Okay, so yeah, this part is going to be for deleting a task. So it's gonna be basically like the same thing. So you'll actually notice that for all of these features of adding, retrieving, or at this point deleting, I'm always defining these asynchronous functions first. So the reason is that handling these functions like asynchronously it's like the easiest way to actually implement like the features in React. So it's honestly just like it's really easy, I think. And yeah, so now what I want to do is we're going to send a delete request to the server. So I'm going to do that same thing where we did up here. So in the string, and then it's going to be that tasks. This part is going to be So remember, this is kind of important because when we're deleting the task, so this is a function, the component that you have to be a little careful about. It's gonna be deleting it by the task ID. So this part that I'm like typing out right now, it's important that you have this stuff included, because when you're deleting it, you want to delete it by the task ID, just like that. And then I'm going to use set tasks again. Yeah, just like that. So what I'm going to do here for the set tasks is I'm updating the state to remove the deleted task from the list. So after you successfully delete the task on the server, or once the server does that, and then it's going to obviously be by the task ID, ID like that. It's gonna, so once it deletes it from the server, it's gonna update it on the UI, and then that's why I'm using filter to remove the items from an array, which is kind of like a common thing to do in Java as well. And then just make sure that it is by the task ID. And then this, you can tell, is pretty much all the same. It's gonna be for the errors. And then this is going to be all the troubleshooting. So this time what I want it to log is it's going to say error and then deleting task. So if that process doesn't work, hopefully it does, it's going to be like error deleting task. Yeah, just like that. Okay, so within the task component, there's gonna be that toggling the task completion. So a part of the tasks.js, I want to implement that feature I was talking about earlier. So it's like when you click on a task, it like crosses off so that the users have the option to show that the task is completed, and like they can either delete it fully or they can just press complete, because we all have like a checklist where you want to like just check it off, or you just want to delete it fully. So I wanted to just give that option. But yeah, okay, so I think we should know the drill right now. We want to define the asynchronous function first. So this one, I'm gonna keep it as toggle, and then yeah, we're gonna just do toggle task completion, and it's gonna be by the task ID. Okay, so I want to elaborate a little more on asynchronous functions. So in Java, it's basically like a technique that lets your program run tasks and stay responsive to other ones. That's why it's like synchronous, whatever. It's really useful in that sense because I have like a bunch of features like deleting a task, adding a task, voice dictation. So I want all of that to be able to respond. I want it to be able to respond to all of those features that I have. So that's why asynchronous functions are like really powerful within Java. Okay, now this actually might look familiar to some people. Hopefully it does. But this line is basically, so we're finding the task by its ID. So that's why I did task.find, and then we're going to do it by its ID. Just like this. And then this next part here is the system actually needs to ensure that it exists, because you can't delete it and it doesn't exist, or else it'll get confused. So it needs to actually find it and then delete it if it exists. And then this is going to be the error message if, like, for some reason, I don't know why this would really happen though. If some reason, like, it just can't like find it. So I'm just gonna do task not found by ID. No, I'm gonna do task not found with ID. I don't know why that would happen, to be honest, but we're just going to do that because I think like the troubleshooting stuff is really important. Yeah, okay. I was like, why is this so like messed up? Okay, so again, this part I was mentioning is pretty bulky. So we're gonna skip a few lines. I'm gonna actually check out why, because I'm seeing some issues. I think, yeah, it's with the bracket. So I'm gonna check out some issues and then fix those, and then we'll come back and finish the toggle task completion. Alrighty, so I finished typing out the toggle task completion feature. So we actually we weren't done yet. So I think, yeah, left off at around that part. I had to actually set the request, but over here I set a patch request. So you can see axios.patch to the server. So the patch request is going to get sent to the server to update the task completion status. And then when you're using axios.patch, it's going to let us send, and it's going to send only the completed and updated status to the server and not anything else. So that's what that's going to do there. And then over here is going to basically update the state with the toggle task, because like after the server confirms the update, the state, it needs to reflect that change so that like the UI is accurate. And then, yeah, pretty much like all of this stuff here is going to be for the error. So if the user presses on the task and that process doesn't work, it's gonna just say error toggling task and then like no response, whatever. Okay. I think we're ready to move on. Let's start there. I wanna handle the voice input. So do the part for like the voice input section. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, so this line right here, so I'm defining a function for handle transcript. I can't spell. Handle transcript, and then we're gonna put the brackets just like that. So that's gonna basically handle the transcribed text from the voice dictation feature. And then these parts over here, so it's going to be set new task, and then I'm going to do add task. So you're going to set a new task with the transcript, and then add a task with the transcript. And basically what that's doing, bracket. So this part, this part over here, basically it's gonna allow the voice input to directly add the tasks and then integrate the voice functionality with the existing task management system. Okay, and then we'll skip a few lines, and I want to create the user interface. Like this is gonna be like the last part. It's gonna be a little longer for the tasks.js file, but basically we're going to be creating the user interface. So this last part of tasks.js, it's really about like designing the UI layout by organizing the input field, task list, and all the buttons in like a user-friendly way. And it's not about styling this time, but it's more about like functionality. So that's where the user part comes into it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap the entire task management UI in a container div. So I'm gonna just do it like that. that, and we're gonna wrap it like that. So it's kind of like indicating that this stuff is styled with CSS. And then wrapping the UI in a container is also just gonna help with like the layout and the styling. Yeah, so over here, what's gonna go in here is not classmate. I don't know why I typed that out. Class name. And this is going to be wrapped in the tasks container. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make the header of the web app. So we're gonna do h1, question mark. I'm gonna make the header of the web app Astro-Tasks. So it's gonna be called Astro-Tasks, and yeah, that's just giving the app a title. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, so right here is I'm going to integrate the voice dictation component. So that's why you see voice dictation right over there. And I'm basically, so here, give me a second. So on transcript, and then it's going to handle. So I'm going to bring this function over here now. Oh, no. Yeah, I think it should be like that. So the handle transcript function is, I'm basically passing it down as like a prop. So what that means is I'm gonna allow the voice dictation component to communicate with the tasks component. And then by using the prop, I'm just gonna like connect those different components in the React app and like let it all work together, I guess. So yeah, I'm just letting everything work together with the voice dictation. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, we'll just do that for now. I'm gonna wrap the input field and the add task button. So just like this. And why do I keep doing classmate? I don't know what that even, like where that even came from. I don't know why that's happening. Is this wrong? Class name. Oh. Yeah, okay. So I wrapped the input field and then the add task button so that like, you know, grouping those elements just makes the layout cleaner and like easier to manage. Okay. And then what we're gonna do is, oh my God, what? So this is all going to be for the input field again. If I can spell input. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it should be not a string, just like this. So basically users, they're gonna need a way to like input their task manually. So what I'm doing, so like that's for the input field essentially. Yeah, all of this right now that I'm typing is rendering an input field for like typing the new tasks. So that's what I'm doing right there. Let me just continue. Yeah, and this part is pretty like, I personally thought it was complicated. So I did use online resources for this part and like tutorials. And then last thing. Yeah, so it's gonna obviously be a new task. And then I'm gonna just close that up. Okay, now what we want to do is render a button. So I'm going to render a button that's going to add a new task when it's clicked, since obviously like the users, they need, so I'm going to do on click. Obviously they need a way to add a task. So add task and submit their input, and the button is like, the most intuitive way to do that. So yeah, on click, add task, and then it's going to add task. Yeah, just like this. Okay, I just want to finish this part up here so that there's no confusion. Okay. So now what we got to do is I'm going to render a list of tasks. So I'm going to do UL and then class name, not classmate, class name. And then it's going to be task list. And basically, so like the tasks, they're going to be best displayed in like a list format. And it's going to allow the users to easily see and interact with it. And then over here, I'm going to apply the tasks state. So just like this. And then, yeah, it's going to be the list. So, so this part, like what I was typing out there. So, using the map, so you see how I did tasks.map, that's going to allow us to render a list of tasks that updates automatically. And like this is, I just found it was like good practice when you're working with like lists and arrays and data and all that stuff. And like especially in React, since we're like dynamically creating elements based on our data. So yeah, this was pretty important, I think. And then the li, so list. And then it's gonna be task underscore ID. So that part here is I'm representing each item as a list, each task as a list item. So list items, you can see the li over there. Those are very, very much appropriate for representing individual items in a list. That's why I'm doing that this right now. And then task. Yeah, so I'm just gonna continue this section. Empty string, okay. Yeah, okay. And then, sorry, I was like trying to understand where I was at. Let me just finish this part super quickly. So it's gonna be for the toggle, yeah, right here, toggle task completion, and then that's gonna be by the task underscore ID, and then close that all up. Okay, and then, so, okay, we're almost there, but I realized that, like, as I was, like, that long period of time, I was like, we need to render a delete button for each task that stops you need to delete it, right? So I'm gonna actually show how to do that right now. So it's gonna be a button, not like that. I don't know what I just did there. Button. And then on click. so just trying to figure out like the formatting stuff. Yeah, this is important, so make sure you don't forget this part. But so basically we want to render a delete button for each task that's gonna stop. So over here you can see I did stop propagation. So we want a delete button for each task that's gonna stop the event propagation, and it's gonna call the delete task right here. It's gonna call that when it's clicked. So let me just do task ID, since remember we're deleting the tasks by their ID. And then I just gotta like close this off, I guess. Just like that. And then, okay, we're gonna like, yeah. Oh, and then since it's a delete, I'm gonna do delete, since it's like a delete button. Okay, we'll just keep it like this. And then, yeah, so basically stopping the propagation is gonna, like what I just did right here, stopping, I still gotta like fix it. I know there's so many errors. I'm gonna go back and really quickly fix that. But stopping the propagation is gonna prevent the click event from triggering the task completion toggle, and like basically make sure that the task is fully deleted. Okay, okay, so the only differences were that I just like closed everything off properly, had to figure it out using terminal and prettier, but basically last thing we're gonna do is, and I hope this is, you didn't forget this from the other component files, but now we have to export. So I'm gonna do export. We gotta export the tasks component from the tasks.js file. So we're gonna export that. And this file that we've been working on, it's important that we're gonna do this because like in JavaScript, when you use the export default, that command right there, you make the task component the default export from this module, and it's going to allow like other parts of the application to import and use this component easily. So yeah, this is like a must in like, especially when you're working in React or Java. But yeah, okay, so this is the tasks.js file. Everything should look good. Make sure, I might have made like a few changes. I don't think I changed anything like drastically, but yeah, just make sure that if you're following along, it looks something like this. If you want it to look like what mine is gonna look like. Okay, we finished all of the components, I think. So when I say components, I mean these files right over there, but we're gonna actually stay in this src file. So see how we're src components? We're gonna leave components, but we're gonna stay in this src file. So what you're gonna do is we're gonna create a folder called API, and we're gonna do that manually. So we're gonna, in VS Code, if you are on VS Code, you're gonna stay in src and you're gonna right click on it and you're gonna press new folder. And then it's gonna just be called API. So this is gonna be for all things API related, and I'm just gonna do it in like a separate folder to maintain clean structure in the project and to make everything easier. And remember, I think it was in the server file where we imported this. I could be wrong, but remember the I think you might have heard like request so much, like delete request, post request, get request, patch, whatever it is. This is going to be so much easier for all of those things and making sure that there's no issues, basically. So, okay, now within this folder, you're going to make a file called axios.js. So new file, and then axios.js. Oh, I've been mentioning Axios so much, so let's just like get into it now. Okay, so again, when I'm in like so many, like I'm so within the front end folder, I just find it easier to know that I'm in like the SRC, and then you're an API, and then this is the axios.js file, just in case you want to like import it to Git or what, like make a repo, whatever it is. But yeah, so this first line right over here is going to import the Axios library. To to elaborate more, basically this Axios right over here, it simplifies making HTTP requests in a React application. So the things that I was mentioning before, and it just like makes everything easier since we had like those delete and those get requests. So by using Axios, you can easily handle tasks like error handling and just like making more requests in general. This is going to be super short file, by the way, so I'm going to just skip a few lines. Okay, now what we're going to do is, okay, so I'm going to type this out. And this axios.create right over here. Oh, no, not like that. Yeah, so this axios.create, it's creating an Axios instance that is it's gonna be really useful when we're making multiple API calls to the same server, since it's like reducing repetition and just makes the code cleaner, basically. And then so the base URL, you gotta type out and I actually have it. I already know what it is. It's pretty simple. It's just the HTTP and then localhost, and then I'm gonna be on 508 since that was the port that we used before, and so 5008 is the endpoint, and since we're on like local development and the backend server is like running on this very specific URL, and yeah, we're just gonna close it up just like that. So basically, by setting up an Axios instance in this way, components like tasks.js, for example, they can import pre-done Axios instances and just make the API requests without needing to repeat common settings like the base URL. And I actually learned something new, that this approach is. It's promoting something called dry code, which is don't repeat yourself, so DRY, don't repeat yourself code, and it just makes the app so much easier to work with. Okay, so hopefully you remember that when we worked on app.js, so app.js over here, I said how we'll come back to app.css. So when we worked on this file over here, I had to import this app.css file. So that's basically what we're going to work on. So app.css, it's a file that contains the styles that applies to the entire React application. And it's going to be things like the main fonts, the background, the colors. It's actually different than the other CSS file that we worked on before, so this one over there, because that was tasks.css, so that was for the tasks component. But this is for the entire React application because it's going to be app.css. So it's actually located in the same directory, the SRC one, and it's going to contain the basic styling, and it's right over here. So when you initialize a React application, it's one of those that are basically already made. I think I'm just gonna get rid of this stuff because I want to show, because remember, CSS, like when I think about it, I think of like the trial and error and all that stuff, and so I want to show like the things that I thought were the best. when making the app. So we're just gonna go ahead and start from scratch. Okay. So everything within these brackets is going to be for the global body styles. So I'm gonna set the background. Oh. Why can I not spell again? I'm gonna set the background color to, and this is gonna be the background color of the entire page, to the dark blue shade, which is going to be the Oxford blue color that I think I'm just going to go over here and get it really quickly. I know it started with like O and then it was a D. Yeah, where is it? Okay. Oh, okay, here. Yeah, this was the Oxford blue color. So I'm just gonna go like that, and that's gonna basically be the backdrop for the entire app. So like, feel free to use another color that you find. Doesn't matter at all. Okay, and then I'm going to set the default color to that. I wanted that linen, yeah, right here, like the off-white basically. So I want the linen color just like that. So it would be like a nice contrast against the dark background. And then, okay, so for the fonts, I actually want to set Cairo, which is the font that I chose. So I actually chose some fonts. So you know how I did the coolers on, like, you know, I chose all these like Oxford blue, linen. I chose all of these colors on the coolers website. So I did the same thing for fonts. So actually, before I even do anything for the fonts, I'm going to go to that website and show how I generated the customizable fonts that I wanted. And yeah. Okay, just to refresh your memory, so this is, these were the colors that I chose on coolers. Just to refresh again, you go coolers.co, and for the fonts, I chose my fonts here. It's actually gonna be called Font Joy. I think this is, okay, great. It's not. Okay, I don't know what it is then. Let's just do font. Okay. Oh, fontjoy.com. Okay. So how FontJoy works is it's very much like coolers. So there's going to be this generate button right here. If I see, let's say I don't like anything, you know, let's say I like this Nunito, I'm going to lock it, and then it's going to generate more fonts for me. So let's say I like this one, I want to find a new one, maybe sure, this is fine. So there's gonna be, you know, there's a title, subtitle, and then there is a body, and you can actually type stuff out, like hello. You can actually type stuff out. This is, I think, actually, what is it? Oh, I think this is for when you're generating, if you want like high contrast or very similar when you're generating. Yeah, I'm just like, okay, yeah. So it's pretty cool, I think. So these are the fonts that I chose. I just like screenshotted it. So I chose Play, Cairo, and Pretty. So those were the ones that I chose. So now when I go here, I just wanted to clarify. This is where I'm getting Cairo from. So this is the font that I chose, and it's gonna basically apply to all of the text in the page. And something interesting is you can actually do a fallback like scenario. So if, in case Cairo doesn't work, I'll choose sans serif. That's why there's two. So that's why I did it like that. Okay. Then, hopefully you also remember this. This is going to be the flex box. So I'm going to do the rest as well. I just want to press center. Yeah, so that's going to be a flex box. So I'm aligning and centering all the items both horizontally and vertically, and making sure that the content stays in the middle of the page. And then I'm gonna just make sure that the height of the body takes up the full height of 100. And then last thing is I'm just gonna remove the default margins again. Thought this was the best. And I just want the content to stretch along the full width and height of the page. So yeah, I think, and this is all the way there. And then we're gonna skip a few lines. Okay, so now this is going to apply to the app container, which is like that box thingy I had in mind before. But what all I'm gonna do is align it. So I'm gonna do text align and then center. So I'm just like here, it says text align. So I'm aligning the text within the app container, which is useful since obviously you want the main content and the headings to be centered within the container, just like that. And then now I'm gonna do the styling for the header component. So we're gonna set the background color to, actually I'm gonna do it, background color. I'm gonna set it to, I think, a slightly lighter shade of blue compared to the body, which I guess is gonna be this one right over here. So I'm gonna copy and paste the hex code. Okay, good. And then I'm gonna add padding inside the header, just like that, because I don't want the content to like touch the edges, and I just want it to be visually appealing. And then last thing for the headers is I'm going to round the corners to give it like a softer look, and like a softer and more modern look, just like this. Yeah. Okay, so what I want to do now is the styling for the header. It's not one, it's gonna be one. So I'm gonna actually first, I'll set the, what am I gonna, actually, I think I'm gonna do, oh, sorry, not the header. I was like, what am I doing? I'm gonna do the headings. There's a difference. But yeah, so this section is gonna be the H1, or all the H1 headings, which is like, it's gonna be different than the body text. So this time I'll actually choose, what I wanted to do was choose a different font. So I wanna do Play. So this one right here. And if you like, it's even a Google font. So if you go to Google Fonts here, I'm pretty sure it gives you section. Yeah, just like this. So it's gonna look something like this. So the H1 headings are going to have this play. Oh my god, play. And then if this is the fallback, again, in case that doesn't work, it should though. And then, yeah, and then I'll do the color. So I'm gonna actually match the heading color with the body text color, and I'll make it, I know it's already linen because it's the white, which just makes the most sense. Hashtag. And then close it all up. Yeah, that's the best part about CSS. It's so easy to like explain and just go through, but it's not easy like doing it from scratch, literally. Okay. So the next part, yeah, I'm gonna keep saying the next part because there's like, it's not a really big file, I would say, but I think it is definitely like, you know, lengthy because there's a lot of styling. But this is going to be for the task container styling part. So since I want it to be like one container, then within that, there's gonna be another with like the task component. So that's what that's gonna be for. And yeah, we're gonna do that. And it's honestly very similar. So you can see that I'm doing like backgrounds, I'm doing padding, border radius, width, all that stuff. So we're gonna start with background color, and I'm gonna make the background color. Ooh, let me see. Yeah, I think I did this one. Okay, this one. Okay, and then yeah, just like I want to just make it visually distinct from like the header and the body, and then I'm going to add padding inside of the container, just like that. And then I want to round the corners a little more than the heading, I think. Yeah, just like that. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually set a fixed width for the task container. So what this is gonna do is it's just gonna make it like a really good and like big size. Yeah, just like that. And then last thing is we're gonna add some space as the margin above the task container and separate it from the other elements. Okay, good. So now I gotta do the styling for the input container. So it's going to be input container. And also while I'm doing all this, I just want to say that like when it comes to CSS, I didn't like this doesn't come at the top of my head. Like I had to run the server each time and then make gradual changes, use resources, tutorials, whatever I thought was best. I'm not going to do that right now. We're going to run the server very soon. Just not going to do it right now because I think I thought it would be more beneficial to maybe finish the files first. So yeah, I just want to say that like I would do something, run the server, do something like so it's not all like made up literally. But yeah, basically what I just did here was I did the flex box and added more spacing, and yeah. So this is going to be the styling for the input that the user puts in. So that's why it's going to be type. So the type of input is for text. And then everything in this bracket. So I'm going to add more padding inside the input field and just make the text more readable and the input area larger. I'm going to remove the default, oh, what am I doing here? How did I not realize that? Okay, I'm going to remove the default border for a more cleaner and like modern look, and then we will round the corner edges. So border radius. So the more you do it, the rounder it will be. And then, so this right here, so flex, and then 1, what this is right over here is it's actually going to allow the input field to expand and fill the available space within the task container so it doesn't get like squeezed by the bottom basically. Yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna skip a few lines like this. So now we gotta basically style like all the buttons. Yeah, we're gonna style all the buttons, which are gonna be the things like the add task or delete buttons. So for the buttons, I'm gonna make the background color the rows to make it stand out against, so this one to make it stand out against the blue. Okay, and then I'll just remove the default border, I think, yeah, to make it cleaner. I'm gonna add padding inside of the button to make it look like, I don't know, easier to click, I guess. Oh. And then We're gonna round the corners of the button to match the overall style of the app, since that's what I'm going for. Oh god, I literally cannot spell radius. Okay, and then for the color, I'm just gonna set the color to like a default white, which I know is just like, what? Can I do white? Hashtag white? Is that allowed? I think white was this one. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna set it to that. Let me just do check. I'm gonna add a note to check this off camera after. Oh my god, check this. One thing, I don't know if I explained, but in CSS, you know how there's a double slash and then you can type whatever, hello? You can also do slash and then asterisk. If you didn't know that, if you're new to coding, just wanted to bring that up. Okay, where was I? Okay, I think that this is still so cool. I know I already explained it, but like, oh, what am I doing? Yeah, okay. I think it's so cool because you're literally like changing your cursor to the pointer to show, like when you're hovering over the button, to show it's clickable. So I think that's really cool. I don't know about anyone else. And then, yeah, last thing. Just like that. So I just added small space to the left so you can see margin left, like to the bottom, and separate it from the input field. Okay, so this part right here, just trying to see how much time I have left. So this is going to be for the task list styling. So task list, and then LI, remember that also is going to be the list. Obviously there's, you know, we got to style this part. So I'm just gonna, yeah. Okay, so what I'm doing is removing the default bullet points. So the list style type, we're gonna do none because I don't want any. Yeah, I just want it to look clean. I don't want like bullet points. And then padding, I'm gonna remove the default padding actually, just to give it better spacing. Okay. And then this is going to be for the task list items. So yeah, it's the same. You can see it's very similar here. This time, I just want to indicate that we're going to style like the list of the task items instead. So we're not going to focus on like this default stuff. We're going to focus on like the background color and all that stuff again. So I'm going to set the background and like background color, margin, like display, all that other stuff. So I'm going to set the background color to actually match the header. So the header was this color over here. So copy and paste. And then margin. I feel like I'm just kind of like yapping about what these things are at this point. Like I'm sure after like a couple times you know what padding is, you know what the margin is. When it's 0, I'm just removing it. Except for not when I do that, because that's dumb. Yeah, I don't want to, I'm just going to remove all that stuff because I don't want it to look ugly and touch each other. And, okay, there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, next part is I'm going to use the flex box to just align everything in the list again. And then align items in the center. yeah, just like that. Okay. Now, so just one thing. Remember, we're going to have tasks, and then we're going to have tasks that are completed and are going to be shown with a line right through it. So when you click it, it's going to show, and there's going to be the completed like toggle task feature. That's basically what it is. So because of that, I just want to ensure that it actually works. So for the basically what I said here is that within the task list, any task that is completed, there's going to be a text decoration of a line crossing through it. That's basically what I'm doing there. Okay, and then I usually like skip, I think, 2-ish lines. Okay, so this is going to be for the task item buttons. So it's going to be anything in the task list and then these buttons. And this is going to be like the very last thing I think for the app.css, which is going to be adding task item buttons in the list. So you can see that with the li. So I'm going to just match, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do background color, border padding, border radius, the color, and then like the cursor thing because it's a button. So can quickly go through that, and actually I think it's saved it. Yeah, this is the color I wanted. I wanted it to match the other ones. I don't want a border. Padding, I'm just trying to make everything like consistent. And round the edges. Yeah, I think this is white. And last thing is just the cursor is going to be a pointer. Yeah, so that was basically it for the app.css. We're done that, and I'm going to explain what we're going to do next. So we've been basically staying in this src folder, which is, remember, for the assets, the whole time. But now I'm actually going to turn your attention to this directory that says public. So right over there. And you're going to click that. And you're going to navigate to a index.html file. So this file in a React project, it's basically, it serves as the HTML like template that the entire React app is going to be built upon. So everything in this file, so everything you see here, I didn't do this. It, like when you initialize the React app, it's just kind of a template, but it's essentially the foundation on which the app is rendered. So usually this file is like, it's not touched unless you want to change the title of the application. So it's not just like a default title, so that you can make a custom one. There's also the aspect of linking external fonts and CSS files that the app's going to use. So those are actually going to be the two main reasons why we're going to go ahead and edit this file. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start like right over here, I think. This one might take a while because like I had to get a lot of external help on this file. So basically what I'm doing is I'm declaring the document type, just like this. So that's going to ensure that the browser renders the page in like a standard mode. So if this was removed, the page might actually not work, but it might render like inconsistently across like different browsers. So like we don't really want that stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to set the language of the document to English. So I'm gonna skip a line and I'm going to, so HTML, and I'm gonna do the language is English. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now this head section, yeah, that head section right over there, it's going to contain metadata about the document, which is basically things for like keywords that I also found this on the React editor, or sorry, the React developers page. So yeah, this stuff is pretty complicated. And then close it off. So that's basically gonna specify the character encoding and like make sure that the page can display in like a wide range of characters. That's what that part is. Now what I'm gonna do, so this meta tag right there, do viewport, it's gonna control the layout on like the mobile browsers, and it's gonna, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the width. I'm gonna set the viewport width to match the device's width. So that's what I'm doing right now. So width equals device width. And if we didn't have this, like honestly, the page, it might scale inconsistently, and like you don't really want that, especially on like mobile devices. And I haven't tried this on my phone, but honestly, this is just like precautionary reasons, I think. Okay, and then close. Oh my god, what? Okay, and then now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the title for the web page, which is gonna appear in the browser tab, and I want the app to actually have like a custom title. So what it's gonna be called is Astro-Tasks. And then I already closed it up. So that was one of the reasons you're gonna actually edit this file. But yeah. Okay, so that was for editing the title and like working on like the different browsers and like characters and language and all that stuff. This part is going to be importing the custom fonts. So what you're gonna do is, this part is actually complicated. So I'm not gonna lie, I actually did need a lot of help for this, whether it was ChatGPT or Stack Overflow, whatever I could find. So this part right here, I'm importing the custom fonts from the Google fonts. So the Play, Cairo, and Pretty to be used in the web app. And I don't want the web app to fall back to using the default system fonts after all of that CSS filing. So yeah, basically we gotta do this. So this section right over here that I haven't put the link to, if I go to my browser, I'm honestly like, I don't want to lie, this part I had to ask ChatGPT, and I'm like, how do I make sure that my fonts are still incorporated, because I want to have like the custom fonts. So I can't lie, I'm not sure where this link even came from. I got this link, so maybe you want to do the same thing. It's a really simple question though you can ask, but I'm like honestly just gonna copy and paste this link in between the double brackets, just like that. Sorry, the double quotes, just like that. That's what I did there, just to make sure that it works. And then same thing here. Yeah, I was like, why is it not working? So yeah, this is going to be style sheet. And then, so this is that link, and then we want it to apply to the things in the app.css file. Okay, and then now what we're gonna do is, okay, so I linked this because I don't want like inconsistent styling. Oh, I'm gonna actually So close it off there. Body. So now the body, what I want is it's going to contain the visible part of the web page. So this div right over here, and the ID equals root. And then I'm going to just close that off just like that. That's where the React app is going to get rendered. And without it, the app wouldn't actually be in the browser. That's what it's going to be doing there. And then, yeah, just closing it off. So this was the index.html file. Honestly, I know it was pretty complicated. I had a lot of issues with it. But yeah, this is all I edited as well. Like, just these lines. Don't touch that stuff. Just, if you want, you don't even have to. But yeah, this is all we're going to do. Okay, so I was just playing around with some stuff, but I think it's time to actually run the server and run the application. It's been a long time of just going through the codes. Just to summarize really quickly, so we have our back end and our front end. In the back end, we have the models, the routes, we have the server.js, which is really important. Then we have the front end, we have things like the SRC, we have the API, a bunch of components which you're actually going to see in action now. And then things like app.css, app.js, and then just other stuff like here we had just other templates that React gives you that I didn't want to touch those things. So now I'm gonna actually show you how to run it. And to run your application, you can also go into your terminal if you're on a Mac like me, but it's the same thing in VS Code. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go, just bring your mouse like up top where there's like the Apple logo pretty much, and there's gonna be a section for terminal, and you're gonna click new terminal. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna change the directory, so you're gonna cd into the back end. So we wanna go into the back end server just like when we created it just like this. I think it's this one. I don't know. I have so many folders. So we have the back end and then we have the front end. So Astro-Tasks, that's just like this is the main folder. And then we have like a bunch of other codes within it. So we have the back end and then the front end. So what we want to do is change the directory to the back end, and we want to call the server. So I'm going to do node server.js. So this is important because obviously our application is on a server. It's on a web server. So you're gonna basically call the server and press enter. It's gonna say, and this is how you know it's successful. So the server is running on this local host right here. And if I was actually to copy and paste this into the browser, it's gonna say cannot get. What this means is we gotta call the front end now. So we had our back end and our front end. Remember those two little things that we worked on. Now what we gotta do is we gotta call the front end. So you can like right click anywhere just like this, and you're gonna go to new terminal. Now what we wanna do is go to the front end. So the back end stuff is done. Now we're going to go into the front end. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna go npm start. It's gonna just start the developmental server, and there we go. So I just want to go through some functionality, but right off the top you can see all of the things I was talking about. So this kind of container, this is the new task feature, the title. I love the feature of like you can hover over and you get a clicker, the background, all this stuff. So I'll come back, we're gonna go through the features, and then I think we're gonna wrap this tutorial up. Okay, so with the application, let's just take a look at what we have here. So this is the input field that we have. Remember, there was a lot of stuff. When you add a component, there's like styling with it, there's functionality, there's UI, UX, all that stuff. It's all done, we made it. So you're gonna go to the input field, and it's like an originally it was for astronauts, so I would do things like clean shuttle, which I know, it can be for anything. But what you're gonna do is add task. And so this is the toggle task completion part I kept talking about. So let's say that we have our task and you're gonna just click on it. See how it did line through? That's because remember when we were in the front end and then we were in the src folder and then I think it was app.css, any completed task is going to have a line through it. So that's what that's for. And then it has its own, and you can actually, I didn't even realize you could do that. But then it's going to have its own delete button. Let's say I have a bunch of tasks. So clean the shuttle. I don't know, workout, super random. Take like I'm just like doing random stuff. Take garbage out. Clean. So you can see that as I added more tasks, this container, this blue, like the Bondi blue, that color was getting bigger, and each of these separate tasks have their own container as well, and their own buttons. What I thought is super cool is the voice dictation feature. So I'm gonna start listening. Okay. Also, I think because I've already run this before, there's usually like so over here, it'll like a permission thing will come up. Remember how we had to code it for asking permission? If I like wanted to I want to see what's gonna happen. Okay, so yeah, if I press don't allow microphone, this is gonna happen. And I wonder if there's like, okay, yeah, so it actually worked out pretty well. Remember, that was the troubleshooting. So now I'm going to reload and I'm going to press start listening and I'm just going to say something. So go for a walk. Just like that. And once I was done, it just added it right away. And then you can cross it out, you can keep it, you can delete it when you're done. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Astro-Tasks. I'm really I'm personally proud of it because again, like I hope this tutorial was okay. I know it was like kind of me yapping at one point, but I really wanted it to be like a step-by-step tutorial of, you know, how to get into React applications because I'm still new to it as well. I'm like very, very new. But I thought it was a good way for me to learn more. If you have any questions or comments or like, you know, feedback, suggestions, whatever, you can comment down below. But yeah, this was honestly really fun. I hope I did a really good job at like explaining it thoroughly and so that maybe you can make this now yourself. It was kind of like for me to show what I've learned, but also to like do it for myself in a way. Like I wanted to almost, you know, learn more by teaching someone else. So thought that was pretty cool. So this is the application. And yeah, I'm just gonna say a few more closing words and I think we're done. Okay, so I really, really hope that everyone enjoyed this tutorial. I had a lot of fun making it again. I'm still learning how to do all this stuff, but yeah, any comments, suggestions, questions, anything, I will take it all. A couple things. So for this application, for the code that I wrote, I'm gonna put it in like a Git repo so that you can access it. And if you have like maybe before you have some questions, you can check out the repo and maybe try and figure it out yourself. But yeah, I'm going to do that. This is going to be it for the tutorial. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, but I think we're good. I hope you have a good time making your own application. If you do, remember, you can play around with it. You can do your own CSS, you can do your own colors, go on Coolers, FontJoy. I just really hope that you learned something new because I definitely learned something new throughout this whole process. And yeah, it was honestly really fun. It was a journey. I've been working on that for around, I want to say like 2-ish months. And then I kind of like impulsively wanted to do a tutorial. And yeah, this is where we are today. So that is one of the features for Astro. The web application for astronauts. This is Astro-Tasks. You can check out the repo, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't like such a boring tutorial. Like, trust me, I've went on YouTube trying to figure out like how do I learn Java, how do I learn like Python, whatever. And there's been like tutorials where I have no idea what they're saying. They'll like type a bunch of stuff out and it's like they just don't explain it. Which I kind of get. I was kind of like, I'm just gonna type this out. It's like self-explanatory, but it's not really when like people are beginners. So I wanted to make this really beginner friendly. And yeah, that's my spiel. That's my closing speech. I hope this wasn't like I saw this meme where it was like the average like coding tutorial is like they write one line and then the next time you're on like line 10,000 and you created Minecraft. So I hope that wasn't an example of that. But yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day and I hope you really enjoyed the tutorial. Bye. Super quick editing. I don't know if I mentioned, or I don't think I did, but the Git repo and everything, all the resources, I'm going to put in the description in YouTube. And I'll put all of my contacts, so like my email, my LinkedIn, my personal website, my portfolio, all of that stuff in the description if you do want to reach out to me, because trust me, I am more than happy to talk to anybody. Um, and yeah, just one more thing. Make sure you subscribe if you did like this. Tell me if you want to see more videos like this. I'm kind of like branching out and I'm actually currently in like exploration mode and trying to see like is coding for me, is programming for me, and I had a really fun time making this. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Just something else. I hope this tutorial was not tiring. It was my first time, and I really hope I did a good job at explaining everything. But yeah, here is my doggy. Okay, have a good rest of your day. Bye.